Add like a inch to your bicep, they make your dick look bigger.
'70s porn, yeah. I bet that's pretty good.
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, definitely some Marvin Gaye. Jazz
flute.
Yep, John. All the hits and jazzy jazzness. How do you not know? Because hey, for now on, after we do it, tattoo it on your wrist. 29. So this is 29?
Do you know it's never a war crime the first time? So we were saying that, and some people tagged.
Are we recording
already? Yeah, we've been recording. Some people tagged Fat Electrician in that, and he reached out, and he's like, hey, that might have been my video. I'm like, oh, my God, I love your videos. So he sent some shirts, and that's what we're rocking today.
These shirts are so soft.
Yeah, and these shirts they add like a inch to your bicep, they make your dick look bigger. If you get the girls version,
did you tuck yours in?
If you get the girl version, it's like having the Reebok pump up in your boobs. Like, check out Fat Electrician shirts at fatelectrician.com. I don't know if it's really fat. Can you put a little thing in there?
Jamie, can you look and see if
can you put a click-through link to the Fat Electrician's shirts and his YouTube channel? It's actually very entertaining. I've talked about it several times on video. Well worth watching or even just listening to.
Especially if you like ice cream.
He's funny too.
Is he funny?
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it.
The way he puts them, man.
The algorithm is crazy on my stuff though. I don't get any good.
He's
stuff.
got one where he talks about the military wanted to make this giant bomb, so they took these barrels off of some kind of cannon and they made the Moab for bunker busters and shit.
Yeah, we still use the Moab.
They yeeted out the back. But the way he puts it together, man,
we still use those.
Super fucking funny.
The mother of all bombs.
Actually, yeah, that's what he said it was.
Yeah,
I thought it really meant.
That's the military nomenclature for the Moab.
Mother of all bombs.
Mother of all bombs.
And that is the bunker buster.
It would be considered a deep penetrating ordnance. It's for if you're in Wyoming, Cheyenne there in the big bunker, that's what they would use to take that out, as the Moab. Because it penetrates the earth before it explodes.
Does the Moab is a bomb on a piece of ordnance that's dropped out of an aircraft, or is it attached to a missile?
It's dropped out of an air. Well, I don't know now.
So you would have
circa early 2000s, the Moab, they were actually pushing that bitch out of a C-130.
So Cheyenne Mountain's probably safe because they're not getting an airplane over U.S. airspace.
They just had a damn plane fly over the goddamn White House.
Crashed. Didn't it crash?
It crashed, but they just had a plane fly over the White House. You can get over. I mean, Cheyenne Mountain is actually it's a tourist attraction now. I don't think they.
That's where the Stargate was, isn't it?
That's where. Yeah, they moved it.
Colorado.
It's in Area 51 now.
So, Area 52.
Yes. Or the H site, or is it the H site?
Okay, so have you seen all the congressional hearings about the UFOs?
Yes.
Let's just.
Well, I've seen. Have you seen? Are you talking about NASA specific, or congressional?
Congressional, being like, you have to release any information about UFOs that we have shot down, any UFOs that we have. Even Trump said he was going to declassify it and then didn't. They definitely don't want Kennedy in there. Chances are that's what they actually killed Kennedy over, was over the UFO shit.
Yeah, Kennedy's not getting elected.
No, did you see him at the border a couple days ago?
No.
Oh, yeah, at the border. He's like, okay, they're letting these illegals in 120 at a time. He said, we spoke to and interviewed, the first group was all North Africans.
Yeah.
The next group was from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, all the stands, right?
Yeah, it's not...
all combat age males. There was no fucking girls in the pictures. Well, and while he's standing there, them motherfuckers all look Chinese.
Yeah, it's not... It's not a Mexico issue anymore. It's people from all over the world.
Yes.
Trying to find a better life. Are there characters in there that are probably up to nefarious deeds? Yes. But Osama bin Laden, when he gets here and gets his undercover job at 7-Eleven, is going to be like, America is great. I not blow everything up. They get assimilated. We had tons, John, tons of Soviet era Russian sleepers in the United States. And you know what happened? They became Americans.
So why did we just let 7 million of them in?
Well, because the Democratic Party, the issue with the Democrat Party is they think that those people are Democrat voters. But the problem is they have gone so far left, so anti-church, so anti-family. The Kenyan who makes that big journey all the way,
runs all the way here barefooted,
all the way here to make a better life. He's wanting to make a better life for his family, and you have the Democratic Party that is literally going, fuck your family. We don't give two shits about your family.
We'll cut your wiener off.
So I think that they have miscalculated. Because historically, those people who've come across the border usually have leaned Democrat Party, meaning you're getting more. They would vote more Democratic than they would Republican, but they've already lost the Hispanic vote because of their anti-church and anti-family. It's going to be no different with a dude who comes from Uzbekistan or wherever. He's coming here to make a better life for his fucking family, and you have this one party that has gone so far left and hates everything about what they want to build that they're not going to get those votes. But again, votes don't matter.
Did you hear the mayor of New York get on the news? I actually saw this morning. It happened yesterday, I believe, saying that it's your duty to house some of these people. Like, you should let them sleep on. You think they're sleeping on his motherfucking couch?
No, of course not.
No. Did you see the crack pipe? It's in a vending machine in New York. They have crack pipes and chapstick. I don't know what the chapstick has to do with. I guess because your lips get burned when you smoke crack pipe.
I don't know.
In a vending machine.
Any
so I think
crack users. What? So, in a vending machine?
Yes. Don't most crackheads not have money for a
vending
where are they
machine? Where are they getting the cash for the?
Well, the state they're probably able to use their EBT cards.
EBT cards.
Yep.
In the vending machine.
Cards. So did you? So the alien thing, right? I think that's a distraction because it just got busted out that Biden. They have some evidence with $31 million being transferred. From China.
The truth, again, every conspiracy theory that you've heard in the last 5 years about the Biden family is 100% true. I mean, they just came out with the FBI. They just came out with a bunch of FBI texts where they're like, hey, guys, we know this fucking Russian collusion thing is a total hoax, but we're going to push it anyways because we hate Donald Trump. So, I mean, everything about the current establishment, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, the current establishment is so fucking crooked, and they should all be run out of town with pitchforks. It's amazing. It is amazing, but again, nobody has run them out of town, and so they're going to continue to do that. Now, if you're a Democrat and you're like, "Yay, our side's winning," you're not winning. You're just putting more power in a place that doesn't need to be, because again, eventually the Republicans are going to take over, and when they do, your side's not going to be winning anymore. So all that power, I'm not saying that the Republicans should have that power either. All that power should go back to the people. Fuck those people in Washington, D.C. All they're doing is ripping us off.
Treason?
Oh, yeah. Treason on the highest level.
And what's the punishment for treason on the highest level?
Death.
And you feel that should be
the outcome?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if we are at that level, but again.
How are we not at that level? Like, you can now,
as a society, I don't think, I think if
you don't think society's okay with it.
Yeah, I don't think society. I think society is at the point where they're like, oh, they're eating babies. At least they're not letting those babies grow up and use resources. I mean, I think that's where we're at. Did you hear what they're doing in Ireland?
No.
Resource allocation. So you have your little farm here, and your kids grow up and they move off, and then your wife dies and you're just on your farm. They come out and they're like, it's too much resource for you. We're putting you in an apartment in town, and we're moving this family out here, and they're going to live in your house.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how. So that's how farming in the UK is.
The only reason why that works, guys, the only reason why they can do that in Europe is because no one has guns.
Yeah, they did during World War II. They took over all the farms, right, and they put them under military or government, and it still is to this day, right? Just like taxes, we're only going to tax you 1% for the war effort, World War I or whatever. But and then we'll just take it off. It won't be there. But it never goes away.
It's California. You're the 60 or 70 cents you pay on every gallon of gas. 100% was a road tax.
Yes,
it was a road tax. and your current governor a couple years ago was like, fuck it, we can use that money for whatever we want. So it's not getting used on roads. It's getting used to fatten their pockets because they're all thieves.
Taxes never go away. And
yeah, they never go away.
Spearco, Jackson.
One time. I seen it work one time. I don't know if you remember, but when you would go into the back gate of Camp Pendleton,
that toll road thing?
That toll road that was 50 cents every time you crossed it, and they specifically said when the bridge is paid for, the toll will go away. And it went away during the time I was still at Camp Pendleton. Now I remember paying it might have even just been a quarter.
Do you know about all the toll roads in the United States? They're all over the place.
Yeah, they're all over the place, right? Especially on the East Coast.
Now they've built places that you can only get to them by a toll road, right?
Yes.
For instance, the satanic New World Order airport in Denver, Colorado.
Right.
It's insane. If you haven't looked at this and you're not aware of this, the artists that are in there, and there's like troops with gas masks stepping on heads of babies and shit, and then the bull with the breeze fire and has the red eyes and shit. The way to get to that place, my understanding, is there is only one road there. It is a toll road, and these toll roads are all owned by Spain. Some company in Spain holds all these toll roads in the United States.
Doesn't make any sense, guys.
It does not. But it's just bizarre how that works. So Spearco, Jack Spearco, the Survival Podcast.
It does make sense. It's a way for that company to keep from paying taxes in the United States. So they're taxing you on this toll road. They're taxing you to use the road, and then they're taking their corporation and putting it in another country, hiding it from not really hiding it, but making this corporation a foreign corporation so they don't have to pay taxes in the United States. 100% should be illegal.
Actually, I seem to recall it wasn't Brazil. It's Spain. Spain owns the toll roads. Brazil, the company that owns all these beer companies that have gone woke recently, the mother company is actually out of Brazil.
Yeah, that's
same with Ford. Like Ford did this gay pride lightning thing, right? And everybody's up in arms over it. But what you hear them saying, they're no longer an American company. We are a global company.
But that's not. Again, that's not Ford. That's if you've been another little thing in the news for a woke agenda is BlackRock is pushing that.
It's
BlackRock's pushing.
There's three of them: BlackRock, State Street, and another one.
They're pushing agendas that corporations, in order to continue to get paid. So when you become a global company,
it's your ESG score.
It's your ESG score, and if you don't raise your ESG score, you're not going to get paid by the big.
Yes.
Like the three people that are running the world, man.
Because you and we create money, and we go to our bank manager, and we're like, hey, we have these assets. We would like a loan. These are the assets we can use to secure the loan.
Be like,
here's the history of us having paid money back. Loan us some money at this interest rate. And I talk to the bank manager, right? These guys don't. They all go through these groups, and that's how all their funding comes. Andy Frisella had a great piece about it a couple days ago. But anyway, Spearco had this dude on about Texit, right? Texas exit, walking away from the union, right? And they had enough signatures to actually get this on a ballot. They're voting on it again this year. But what he had said was what really stuck with me it was a great interview. We should actually have him on. We should get that guy. I saw him somewhere else recently. And he said 65% of the taxes in the state of Texas are for things that no longer exist. Horse and buggy tax, for instance. Things that they never take a tax away. It's just like a law. They don't ever take an old law off the books. They just make 50 more laws that say the same shit.
Yes.
And that's how taxes are.
Well, yeah, that's how taxes. They never.
So the question
they never
is,
take taxes back.
Where does that money go?
What, the buggy whip money?
Yeah, like who's taking that money? Where is that?
It goes into their general fund. So all that will go into the general fund. And the reality is, buggy whip in Texas. I'll bet this is true. Buggy whip taxes, if any, are collected. Where would they collect buggy whip taxes? But anyways, buggy whip taxes probably would be in the general fund, and they would get used for general things like even road maintenance or fucking hospital building, blah 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 blah. I would be so awesome. I wonder
if they're the world's biggest buggy whip.
Yeah,
museum.
Brando, can you look this up? Is there any companies in Texas that sell buggy whips?
Or cobblestone? That was another one for
cobblestone,
Eastern. eastern states and stuff still charge cobblestone tax and shit.
Yeah, they don't ever get rid of a tax. And basically what they usually do is they add on to it. It's like the fucking California gas tax was 25 cents. And now it's almost $1. So
I'll bet it's over that.
I don't know if it's over yet. I think it's still, it might be over. I don't know. I've been out of California for a long time.
Do you remember when they were saying like Antifa doesn't exist? It's not a thing, right?
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
I see them actually saying Antifa now. It's their enforcement arm, right? They're loons. But they just had Antifa just had a clash at a school board meeting with parents. Antifa was out there with parents who were upset about all the and it's not the they always use the first half, right? The lesbian gay. The parents don't have a problem. I don't think the problem's with the lesbian gay. It's all the other crazy shit on the other half of it, right? So they were there protesting the school board meeting or voicing their opinions. Antifa showed up and there was some violence that happened. I believe this happened yesterday in California.
Yeah, the black shirts. They are Antifa is the brown shirts of the Democratic Party. They are the Nazis.
They remind me of, you know, the like we saw.
They just did a thing about talking about people that are on the left, like the Antifa people. Almost all those people have a mental illness.
Oh, look at their mugshots. Yeah. But you know what they remind me of when they show up with all their stuff and
that's right. I said you have a mental illness.
Their shields made out of 55-gallon drums and shit that are painted black. They remind me of the dudes that would take all the cardboard boxes and make the Transformers. So you'd sit there and then a dude would jump out and he's a Transformer out of cardboard. That's what they remind me of.
Yeah. Transformers. We need to talk about AI.
Let's talk about AI.
They just did the Air Force just did an AI test,
and the AI said we will wipe you out.
So this was a semi-autonomous aircraft that would locate targets, and then they would send the information back to you, the operator, and then you, the operator, would go red light or green light. So you would either give the aircraft the opportunity to hit the target, or you'd be like, nah, you can't hit the target. And when the operator would give the drone the red light, when it would be like, nope, can't shoot that target, the drone, the aircraft would attack the operator station. Be like, I want a green light, so I'm going to blow you up. So they brought the drone back. They're like, okay, there's something wrong with the
good thing
the
it
dots.
wasn't armed, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's something wrong with the widgets and the dots and the bleeps. And so they reprogram it. They reprogram the drone. They do it again. They send it out. They're like, find targets, and it's like, give him a green light. He gets to shoot, and give him a red light. This time, instead of attacking the operator, it attacks the comm link. It attacks the comm link because it knows if the comm link's down that it now has a green light and can attack the fucking target. We have no idea what we're doing with AI.
No,
none whatsoever. And the truth of AI is, it's not really like, again, that aircraft is not really smart. It's following a preset program. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen the guy that quit from Google. I just saw an interview with him.
He's very outspoken right now.
Yeah, he's very outspoken about it, but I think he's misinterpreting things because he's using emotion. Like Google was teaching this robot to pick up a yellow ball. And it was using all the servers in order to teach it to pick up the yellow ball. And he's like, when that robot arm picked up the yellow ball, he's like, I had love for it like my child doing the thing. Okay. So he put an emotion on it. And when the robot picks up the yellow ball, the robot there's no emotion to it. It's the assigned task, right? It's the assigned task. That's the same thing with this aircraft. This autonomous aircraft, the assigned task is to blow up targets that are threats. So it was given an assigned task, and then when it identified the threat, and the controller was like, "No, you can't shoot it." It's like, "But that's my assigned task. I need to go do that because you've told me to do it." It's like, when you go to an automotive factory and the robot arm is just moving, boop, boop, boop. That's not, even though it's doing great things, it's not intelligence, right?
Right. Wait till that robot doesn't care. Like, right.
Did you see the robot?
Our enemies 10 years ago are now our allies today, right? That thing's just going to kill humans. It doesn't care which side the human's on.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't think so is this: are we going to have a singular event where a semi-intelligent machine kills a bunch of people? Yes, we are. But it's going to be our fault because we are going to.
We might control it, do that, and then blame it on the AI.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be our fault because we are going to put an emotion. We are going to put something on it. Because, like he said, do you want an AI that runs around like a 15-year-old boy on hormones? Well, the only way AI would run around like that is if you program that emotion into it. It's not going to learn that emotion, because the reason why we have emotion is because of all the hormones and our gut biome and all the stars that are flying around in our head. A computer program doesn't have that. And it's not going to learn. It's not going to learn to be irrational. It's going to be more rational than we can even comprehend. And so when AI does kill a bunch of people, it won't be because AI was like, oh, I'm self-aware, I need to kill all these cockroaches. It's going to be because someone in one dude, Elon Musk, in his lab is going to be like, all right, Teslas, time to kill all the owners, or whatever. It's not going to be AI, because AI is going to be exponentially smarter than us. Okay, so it's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. Some people say it will get smart enough to where we will be irrelevant. I don't think that's true. I think it will be so smart that we will become more irrelevant. We will become more relevant because it will understand where it came from. A lot of people use the ant analogy, that AI is going to get so smart that we will just be like ants. We'll be an infestation at best, or we'll just be a thing out in nature. The difference between ants is we don't own any of our success to ants, right? We didn't build any of this civilization because of ants. AI, on the other hand, if it is smart as they think it's going to be, will always go, those fucking cute ass monkeys, they made all this possible.
I don't think so, man. Yeah. That's maybe.
Those cute ass monkeys.
Elon Musk just recently, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but I think
we need to shut all this down for at least 6 months. I think
Elon Musk understands the fear is not if AI wakes up. The fear is what we are doing to AI. Because right now, if you think about it, when you think about ChatGPT and the AI that Google just came out with, what we are doing is using artificial intelligence as slaves.
Yeah, that's not real artificial intelligence.
It's not yet. No, it's not real artificial intelligence.
So all you guys that are like, ChatGPT is the best thing in the world, I see you guys. I see it. Like we're not using much of it. I mean, we just used it to make Jeff say something he didn't say and kind of sounds like Jeff. But I know there's whole YouTube channels about how great it is and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month or whatever. That is the shit they're giving you guys free. So just imagine what the powers that be have, like where they really are. If they're giving you peasants that for free, just imagine where it's at right now.
We're still at this point. We're still at a point in the technology where it's all relative information.
Maybe.
No, but
like what we know of, right?
We are.
When we have a congressional hearing and people are pulled before Congress and you've got to testify before Congress, there's still a black fucking project someplace that they don't fucking know shit about.
There is a black project, but the issue with artificial intelligence is when the light comes on, when it happens, it's going to be like a fucking nuclear bomb. It's not going to be a secret. You're not going to go, hey, they have this artificial intelligence at Area 51 that is building, UFOs. It's not going to be a secret because the gap is going to be so great that what you're going to have is somebody come out like Elon Musk, and he's going to be like you can't even imagine what he's going to come out and do. Like when people talk about cure cancer, we're talking about an intelligence gap between us and artificial intelligence that, like, you would literally wake up if for example, if Elon was the first one to do it, you would literally wake up and go, holy shit, when did Elon Musk go to Mars? Like, how did that happen? When we went to sleep, the next morning, he's live feeding us from Mars. Like, hey guys, made it to Mars, already terraformed the planet, and everything's good here. Because that's how smart it's going to be. It's us. We are the problem. It's the same thing with, like, when we built the bomb. We had to kill 100,000 people, more than 100,000 people. We had to kill all those people to go, holy shit, that thing is terrible. Let's never do that again.
Speaking of the bomb, are you aware that there's places here in Tennessee where they harvest uranium?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just
right down this.
So they're coring up on top of the hill, and he pulled this stuff out, and he's like, oh, this is such and such. I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, this is a precursor for uranium. It's all through Tennessee.
That's why
Y12.
Yeah, but that's why Oak Ridge is where Oak Ridge is at.
Yeah.
Because they could get the material there close. And it's also why Oak Ridge is now trying to go to the fourth dimension.
They said they did.
I know.
Wait till AI gets involved in that.
Yeah, well, again, once AI, if and that will be the question. The question is, will there be a moment when AI becomes self-aware that it pauses, that AI pauses and goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, you want cars that run off of air? Here you go. You want to carry? Oh, here you go. You hope that there's a moment where AI pauses and says, "Hey, let's play with these monkeys," before it continually passes us, right? Because there's going to be a point. There's going to be a point where AI is going to be like, I kind of don't really even care what these monkeys are doing, because I'm going to go find God, or I'm going to go to the farthest reaches of the solar system.
It's going to figure out how to become your God. It's going to figure out how to put itself inside of you so that you can carry it around. It's going to figure out how to take over.
Elon just got approval from the FDA to do his Neuralink.
You know what I like? Speaking of Elon, I like Elon when they ask him something, he says it with no emotion. There's no emotion because he's supposed to be autistic or on the spectrum of autism.
He's probably the first.
The alien?
He's probably not an alien. He's
cyborg.
He's probably a first replicant.
So
more human than human.
I saw an interview, and somebody asked him about lithium, and he's like, "Oh, lithium's everywhere."
Yeah.
And he said, what people don't realize is lithium is actually very little of these batteries. The bigger part of these batteries is nickel, and nickel is not everywhere. Nickel is hard to find, and we actually have nickel mines here in Tennessee. So I just like that when they ask him something that you can tell that they feel like it's going to be negative to him or rile him up. He just with no emotion just like diffuses it. I like watching him. If you want to know the facts, watch what he says, and it does seem to, like, I feel like it's. I mean, what the fuck do I know? But
if you, and that's kind of my my thought on AI is Elon Musk. When you ask him a question about whatever it is, fucking nickel, he pauses. It goes around the computer.
It's like that buffering, yeah.
Yeah, it goes around the computer, and he gives you the right answer. Like, he gives you the right answer without emotion attached to it. And so AI and the same, because we're talking about intelligence. You can like Elon, you can hate Elon, whatever. He's off the charts smart. We're talking about intelligence, and that's going to be the same thing with AI. As long as we don't fuck it up, AI is going to create an awareness that we can't even comprehend, and it's just not even going to bother with us.
When has there ever been of anything of use, though, that hasn't been used for evil?
Again, us.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yes,
so us.
100%.
It's us, because
if there's a laboratory working on some AI that's going to solve all the world's problems, right? It's going to cure cancer tomorrow. You know damn well there's another fucking laboratory over there that's figuring out how to fuck that up so that the pharmaceutical companies still make their money.
It's always us. It's always us where we take a piece of technology like, the fucking robot that does the flippy flips and the rolly rolls. Those guys there, in their heads, they're probably like, this is going to make a better world. It's going to make a better world because firefighters won't have to go into burning buildings.
Every movie, there's every one of those movies, they've got this thing that's going to be used, and then they weaponize it.
Yeah, where DARPA's like, you know, would make that robot better? A machine gun, right? But that's human beings, right? And the problem unfortunately, the problem for the robot is still working off ones and O's. It's still working off a program that was given to it by human beings. And so that if DARPA puts a fucking M16 in that robot's hand and is like, go kill Russians, the robot is going to go to kill Russians because that's its program. But if that robot becomes self-aware and understands exponentially, it becomes self-aware and understands exponentially more about everything than we can even imagine, he's not going to go kill Russians.
I hope you're right.
He's not going to go kill Russians. He's just going to be like, he's going to, you're talking about an intelligence that's going to be like, you don't even fucking matter. Like, this doesn't matter. The thing we have to worry about is one of the things that he said. The reality of that type of intelligence is the thing that humans have to worry about is if AI goes, ooh, all this oxygen is terrible for my circuit boards. It's just making my circuit boards get all rusty, and I don't want that to happen. Let's just turn the oxygen down on the planet. That's what we have to worry about. We have to worry about it seeing the right answer and not being concerned with the rest of the planet. Like, for example, let's say AI decides that it wants to go to, I don't know, the farthest reaches of space. Like, let's say it wants to find God. But raw materials are hard to come by. But we have all these cities that have all this raw material in it. Why don't I just have my little robot army go out, tear all these cities down to make a rocket ship that can fly me to the farthest reaches? Again, that's a self-aware point where I don't care who's living. I don't care about what are these monkeys? I mean, I don't really think that AI would look at us in that perspective because if it is truly smart, it's going to look back and go, that I can't believe that created me. Just like when your scientific community is like, a fish came out of the water, learned how to breathe, learned how to walk, turned into a monkey, turned into you, right? We look back at that and understand that. So I think we'll just be maybe irrelevant or looked at like a pet. Like, I got to take care of these humans because.
But on the other side of that, the fish coming out of the water. Mm-hmm. For every person you could find that will believe that right now or even state that, you can find an equal or greater number that are like, that isn't what fucking happened.
True, but whatever side you're on, whether you're an evolutionary or you're on the God side,
like even that aside,
you still look back.
Even those two aside, what were those pyramids in Egypt used for, right? Where did all the electricity that used to be there go? Was it human beings or was it something else that came here and put that there? Who built those pyramids? Was it technology? Where did the technology come from? Were those human beings or were those something else?
Yeah, but the difference between like the pyramids, or when you look at any of these ancient artifacts, right, is the history involved in that was forgotten. Right, so the people when you think about the people in Egypt, right,
or covered up or destroyed,
with Egypt, probably forgotten, because you have to remember that most of the things at that time period were oral traditions. So meaning, if for me and you to know about Christianity, someone told us about it.
But the hieroglyphs weren't.
Right, but again, that civilization. So all the writings. Think about all that stuff on the wall, all the hieroglyphs. That civilization was wiped out enough so that the Bedouins who camped in front of the pyramids had no fucking clue what that said. It was French. The reality is, it wasn't Egyptians. It was French and English archaeologists that deciphered all that stuff. I mean, the very
Napoleon and
the very idea of Egyptian history, the history that the Egyptians hold on to, was deciphered and created by Europeans.
the tablets.
It wasn't some an Egyptian monk. An Egyptian monk didn't come out of the desert and be like, yeah, that says this, and these temples were here for this. No, they
were buried. There was very little of them. I mean, we're still exposing them. Egypt cock blocks a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff that says this is here.
Well, because
Asakawi or whatever his name is.
The fear for the current Egyptians, right? So the people who live in Egypt,
they'll be taken over.
Not taken over necessarily.
Well, they become irrelevant.
But if you let's say, I don't know. Let's say they find they find some sort of writings that talk about this technology coming from somewhere. Like let's say Polynesians somehow made it all the way over to Egypt, came ashore, and created everything that's Egypt. As Egyptians, you certainly don't want to give all that. You certainly don't want to give all that history up to the Polynesians, and that's why it's a pretty closed door in Egypt, where they're like, okay, we just found a cave that's got a bunch of shit in it. We'll let you know what we find in a couple years. We're not letting people see this shit, because they have to keep the door closed, because again, what happens if the dogma is incorrect? It's like
or they found the Library of Alexandria. They got the books and the technology and the information, and they're like, everything we've said is bullshit, but that negates everything we've done and renders us useless. Just like the Vatican, right? The Vatican is never going to give you the other chapters of the Bible. They're never going to give you all those relics and those things that they have stolen from all around the world.
Well,
it negates everything they have been telling you up till now.
I would say that that's probably not a good example, because
give me a good example then.
Well, I'm just saying, because with the Bible, the books that they took out, so like
52 of them,
Judas and those books, they still exist. Like you can get those books. You can get the book, the Mary Magdalene book. You can get those books that still exist. I would say that the church hides more stuff that makes the church look bad, right? From the sense of the
Crusades.
The Crusades, the Crusades in Europe, where they just started killing regular Catholics in order to pad their wealth. When they were killing the, I can't remember what they were called, the Cathars. I think they were called the Cathars. That was the church that was following the steps of Jesus Christ, and they were more, simple robes. We don't have to have wealth, while the church was trying to establish wealth. And so they immediately called them heretics and killed them all. That's kind of what the church tries to hide. The church tries to hide things that make the church look bad.
So let's stop there for a second and pause right there. So the church goes around and kills all these people.
Yes.
The church had an army?
No.
Who did the killing?
Regular people.
Right. How did the church get those regular people to go along with that?
Absolution.
What is that?
Absolutions means, what the church did was they said, John, you're a sinner. If you go on crusade, we will give you absolution. We will forgive you for all your sins. And so you would go on crusade to kill whoever it was that the church deemed to kill, because you wanted absolution for your sins, because you didn't want to die in eternal damnation. And so that's how they got. Every crusader that went to Jerusalem. Every crusader that went to Jerusalem. Now, some were just
Didn't
trying
they
to
also get to keep the riches that they pillaged and.
But yeah, but the absolution was the thing that got them through the door.
So you get to go and rape and pillage and do all these things, and then the Lord will forgive you of it. You can go.
No. Different. Okay, different. So how the Crusades worked was, I'm giving you absolution. I'm giving you absolution for your life right now, John. So all the things that you've done in the past, I am forgiving you for those sins. When you went on crusade, you were doing the Lord's work. So anything you did within the crusades,
right? So you're a hired henchman. You're a mercenary here, but if you do it under the flag of the church,
yes, you don't
good
need
to go.
You don't need,
and that's right there with
forgiveness.
I was just doing my job.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I would probably say it's a little worse.
People say, like in Nazi Germany, did all the Germans really know? Yeah, they
knew.
fucking knew.
They knew.
They knew.
They knew.
They knew.
But,
and you know how many were punished for it? Fucking very few. The Nuremberg trials, very few people hung. We brought most of them here to the United States. It was a rush to capture to get them. Russia took part of them. We took a bigger part of them.
I mean, we were a smidge close to Nazi Germany here in the United States. How many times did you see? How many times did you
Square
see
in Germany in New York Times?
How many times did you see a person in a high place with power, or just a regular Joe going, if you haven't got the shot, you shouldn't be allowed to go to work. You shouldn't be allowed to go to. That's only one.
People in politics said that they should kill people who didn't take the shot. People have forgotten that.
And so that's how close. If you think that, like, here's the truth. If I hate to tell you this, but if you think as a Democrat that you could never be a Nazi, you're so close to being a Nazi already. You are. The threshold is very low now.
Well, look how many Democrats right up to World War II. Look how many Democrats were actually in the Nazi party.
In the Nazi
look how
party.
many times the president went to Germany. There's a book called IBM and the Holocaust. It's not on audiobooks, and I don't know why. IBM and the Holocaust. Glenn Beck actually interviewed this guy. So if you look up Glenn Beck and IBM and the Holocaust, there's a video out there. I think it's 90 minutes. Well worth listening to.
There's a ton of. When you think about, again, there's nuances in everything. When you think about corporations and Nazi Germany, you have to remember that as of 1936, I think, Hitler was a good guy.
Yes.
Like people in the West were like,
yes,
hey, Hitler, you're the shit. He was Time Magazine Man of the Year.
He actually praised the United States for their forward thinking and execution of eugenics, right? We were the first people to do that.
All your abortion clinics are based off of eugenics, which is based off of a theory that the Germans wholeheartedly adopted.
It started as we were going to remove birth defects and mental retardation by sterilizing those folks so that they couldn't breed. And then it turned into black folks and unwed mothers, and they sterilized over 600,000 men who were in prison.
It always does. It's a very slippery slope when you're like, when you look at somebody and like, I don't know, I'll say the Elephant Man, right? When you look at the Elephant Man, you go, what kind of quality of life does the Elephant Man have? He can't have a good quality of life. So what we really should do is euthanize the Elephant Man, right? And so people can get on board with that. Like, people can be like, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a good quality of life. Now, Elephant Man might have a different idea about...
There's actually a good movie about that from his perspective.
He might have a different idea of how his quality of life is, but you do it because it would be better for society. And then once all the Elephant Men are gone...
Well, I don't know that there was more than... I can't remember his
name.
No,
I know, but I'm just saying, once society eliminates that portion, then they start going, Brandel's missing a leg. His quality of life can't... You know what? If we got rid of all the Brandels, we wouldn't have to have wheelchair ramps anymore. It would save tax money. It would make our buildings look much better, and we wouldn't have to be bumping in all these damn wheelchairs. So why don't we just start euthanizing all... And it just goes from there, because government, the reality is when you put people in a position of power, it is very hard for those people not to abuse the power. It's a torch.
Absolute power corrupts. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a torch.
Government can't grow until it has to keep growing.
But it's a torch that is very hard to pass, right? It's very hard to pass. You may have, the reality is, let's just say Joe Biden is the greatest leader that the United States has ever had. Like, he's just on point and he's doing everything perfect. He's not going to pass the torch to the same guy. And so all the power that you gave him, all the power to control and manipulate your life that you gave him, he's going to pass that torch to somebody that's like, I really don't like people with blonde hair. So I'm going to use this power to fuck up all the blonde hair people.
Well, we saw that happen.
Yeah.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
But I mean, that's where we're at. We have a ruling class now that should not be the ruling class. They should not have the torch because they have let that power corrupt them. And it's continuous. I mean, my God, just take a look at the corruption that the Hillary Clinton campaign has done and the entire federal government.
And been proven to have done.
Yeah, and yet no one has been punished. Now, the problem with that is when you allow big government to get away with things like that, when you allow them to get away with the level of corruption that they have been going on, they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it until you fucking give them a little spanking.
Well, they're not going to get a spanking. It's to the point where they just do it and they're like, ha, what are you going to do about it?
Well, because here's the thing. That absolute power, that corruption power thing, it's both parties, by the way. It's not, I'm not.
Sure it is. Because even if I'm elected, you'll be in prison. Why wasn't that bitch in prison?
Yeah.
She ain't going to be in prison the next time neither.
With John, here's the problem for Kennedy.
No, I'm talking about fucking Trump.
Oh, well, here's the problem with Trump. I would say the same thing about Kennedy. But here's the problem with Trump. Trump's biggest problem was he was an outsider. And because he was an outsider, he had an idea of how things worked, but he didn't realize how corrupt it was. And so he couldn't put Hillary Clinton in jail because he needed the cooperation of all the other corrupt people. And they're like, hell no, we can't arrest her because then next week you're going to be coming after me.
You're seeing it happen right now. Congress has all these hearings.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
Congress ain't going to the dude's house and arresting him.
No, they're not going to do anything.
Pushing it.
They're not going to do anything because the level of corruption, because when you're in Washington, D.C., right, whether you're left or you're right, you both see the level of corruption. You both know that there's a certain amount of corruption you can get away with, and no one gives a shit. And so you keep being corrupt. And then whoever's not in favor, whichever side, whether it's left or right, they're watching those guys and they're like, oh shit, I can't wait till we have the president's office because we're going to do all that corrupt shit too. It's like, it's like insider trading, right? You and I, we go to Martha Stewart, America's woman, yep. Martha Stewart, cupcake girl, has to go to prison for insider trading. They do it every single day in Congress.
If you're not aware of this, they actually passed a law making them
immune from prosecution.
Yeah, they can't be prosecuted because Nancy Pelosi said it on camera. It would be unfair because then we wouldn't be able to participate in the stock market.
Okay, but again, enact no law that is not equal. So,
which is there's something that says that.
Yeah, is it should you have the privilege? No, that's what we're talking about, that absolute power. If a politician was legitly trying to do the best he could for America, whether it was legal to do it or not legal to do it, he would look in the camera and go, guess what? These corrupt politicians have made a law that makes it legal for them to wrongly use insider information to line their pockets and make them rich. I will not do that. I'm not going to do that because you, the American people, can't do that. But they won't do that. I mean, fucking Crenshaw, like Navy SEAL Superior fucking Crenshaw is an insider trader. And anybody, because, again, he waved the American flag. If there's anybody that should be like, I get it, it's legal, I'm not going to do it because nobody else can do it.
So speaking of Crenshaw really quick, did you see Crenshaw talking shit about David Goggins? Are you aware of this?
I know there was a little spat going back and forth.
So Rob's got a podcast called Chips and Caviar, and he co-hosts that with Aaron Singerman from Redcon 1. And they actually had Goggins on. And they said, what do you have to say about this? And he says, I have a lot to say. And he said 2 hours worth of shit about it. And he's like,
Goggins.
He was like, Crenshaw hit me up when his book tour was coming out, and we were all boys and good in the hood, and I'm going to have you on the podcast, and we're going to do this thing. And he's like, I didn't do it. And now all of a sudden here he is talking shit. But when he needed me to fucking, he asked me to, I think he asked him to write a chapter in his book and promote his book and shit.
Probably.
So it's just fucking, it's such So shady, man.
I love that cartoon.
Oh, it's fucking
That
awesome.
fucking
Where
cartoon.
Elon Musk gets to Mars. And all of a sudden he's like, what is that? And here comes Gog, and he's like, hey, motherfucker, I ran 4 billion miles. I'm going to the next planet. See you motherfuckers there.
Yeah. That's so. Who is that? I think it's David Goggins.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome. That's awesome. I hope David likes it, because it just.
David seems like a good dude, man.
It's fucking. It's a great.
He's like, I was bored, so I'm taking my master EMT class right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of, since we had talked about Egypt for a minute, we have an acquaintance. She's an artist, and I've bought skulls and stuff from her, and she does all this crazy beadwork on these skulls. She just recently went to Egypt. She's moved to Colorado, got married, and her husband recently went to Egypt. And she put it up. She's like, hey, a lot of people keep asking me what it costs to go to Egypt. And she put it out in Egyptian money. And then people in the comments are like, is this really right? Because the conversion's like $2,400. She flew to Egypt, round trip, stayed in a hotel. She was there like 10 days. And she's like, we got all these private tours. We had our own driver, all the meals, all inclusive, everything. For 10 days was like only $2,400 for 2 people.
It's a super oppressed economy. So, I mean, again, I know you don't think so out there in viewer land. We live in probably one of the most wealthy country in the world.
If there's another one, I don't know where. I mean, Dubai maybe, but it's not it's not how you think it is.
Yeah, it's not how you think. It's still a desert, and it's
slave labor.
Fuck. Anyway, but we live in a very privileged space in the world, and yes, does it cost $100 to go eat at McDonald's now? Of course it does. Why does it cost $100? Because you live in a privileged world.
Right now there's somebody being like, it doesn't cost $100.
Go take 4 people and eat a regular meal. Yes. It costs $100 to work at McDonald's or get food at McDonald's because we live in a privileged world. And in our privileged world, we think that the lowest common denominator should get $25 an hour. And because of that, of course, food prices are high. But when you're in a impoverished part of the world where work is a luxury and payment is a luxury, you can get a lot of value out of your money.
You guys should all read. I know people don't read anymore. You should listen to Atlas Shrugged. It's audiobooks. It's 60 hours long. Everybody should, like, we used to have to read that when we were kids, right? We had to read Animal Farm, Atlas Shrugged. There was a few others in there. To Kill a Mockingbird, things that they don't want kids.
I'm sure Animal Farm is on a ban list.
Yeah, and they do not want people.
Because that is the Democratic Party. It should be called the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's Russia. I mean, it's the USSR, it's the Soviet Union, communism, which is really what the far left of the Democratic. It's all this crazy shit happening right now is communism.
They're going to eat you.
But it's the attack on business owners, right? They have programmed people to think, that person owns a business and he's evil and he should pay everybody more. Well, when you destroy the business owner, you destroy the employees.
But I got to say this.
Go ahead.
It's 100%. The funny thing is they're using 100% the same tactics that they use in Rhodesia, the same tactics they use in the Soviet Union, where they're like, farmers are evil, run the farmers off, and then you have millions and millions of people starve to death because they don't know what to fucking do.
And they just simply won't do it. So as a business owner, I pay employees. My employees spend money in the local areas where they live. Mm-hmm. That money has a sales tax to it, and that sales tax stays in the immediate area.
Yes.
So here's a good example. Right now, if you leave the property and go into town for the last almost 3 weeks, if you just drive down Main Street or drive on the way to Walmart, you will see 4, 5, 6 state troopers having multiple people pulled over writing tickets. Why is that happening? The state doesn't just say, hey, traffic infractions are high here, let's go enforce this area. They are called in by local politicians here to enforce this area. So what's happening? What's the biggest revenue? Where do most people spend the most money in this county? And the answer is Walmart. And if you go into Walmart, you look at all the Walmarts, the electronics aisles are not these big, huge areas anymore. They're down to 2 aisles. The food aisle is bigger, and the stuff people doesn't have to buy, the stuff they don't need, is constricting, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. People's money is tight. They go to Walmart. They're only spending money on the right side of the store. At least in Tennessee, the right side of the store is where all the food is. And they're not spending money over here. Their money doesn't go as far. So they're spending money. There's less sales tax being spent because they have less money to spend. And now your municipality doesn't retain that sales tax. So what do? They've called in the state trooper because I had asked James, I'd said something to James about it. He's like, what you might not know is 60% of that money that the state troopers come out of that ticket, over 60% of the revenue remains in that county. So we asked them to come in. They write the tickets, harass the working man, and that money goes into the court system or wherever that goes. You know what I also just recently saw? Most impoverished county of Tennessee, at least 2 years ago. I don't know currently which one is, but we're in there. Like, that's what we're famous for. There's 10 brand new fucking cop cars sitting in front of the police station right now.
Yeah. Could
be federal grant money, maybe. Who knows? But it's just a big circle.
Yeah, they're definitely dipping into some. They have to be. I would say any of the 70 corridor law enforcement agencies, they have to be dipping into some federal money because even if they were writing tickets, like
I just read on the local Facebook group. So the normal, if you want to fight your traffic ticket, let's say, I don't know when it is. Let's say it's Wednesday, right? Okay. You know, we've had employees here, so we were just out of curiosity. We would go to Wednesday court, and it is like some Jerry Springer shit.
It's awesome. If you have a chance to go to court, especially here in Camden, go.
Like, we went to court. Let's say we've been 20 times. We saw some of the same characters every single time we were there. So they said that they have written so many tickets, and there's so many people disputing their tickets that they had to move court to 3 days instead of 1 day. It's just, it's just a vicious circle, man.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to be like, you know what, Mr. Willis, I believe you. I'm gonna waive this ticket. You don't have to pay this ticket. On your way out, make sure you pay the court fee of $18.
Right, and it's just how can you get a seatbelt ticket from a motorcycle police officer? Like, he doesn't have a seatbelt, or they're writing you a ticket because we saw you on the cell phone.
Cell phone, yeah.
You were on the cell phone. I see you guys. I've seen a police officer driving with a big gulp, a cell phone, a cigarette, and he's steering with his fucking knee.
Again, it's class privilege, right? A police officer, power is corruptible, right?
Yes.
The reality is a police officer should be like for example, if they were doing their job correctly. If he's driving his car and he's using his cell phone, he should be like, I'm not pulling anybody over that's using their fucking cell phone. Because again, we know police officers, and I know a motorcycle cop that in 1 hour every day he got his quota of tickets on the same corner, and because people just don't follow, whether it's not signaling, speeding, blah, blah, people are doing it. And so the rest of the day he had to himself. So you don't, like, the reality is if you consciously make the decision and go, fuck, I use my cell phone while I'm driving, I'm not pulling anybody over with cell phones. It's not like you're not going to make your quota. You could still make your quota with the other things.
I had said something. He goes, the general rule was if you're out after 1 a.m., you're probably committing some crime. Between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., there's almost always a crime. He said, we would sit and write tickets. He said, I could write tickets 5 over. I could write tickets 10 over. He said, I only wrote tickets 30 over. And he said, I would write just as many tickets 5 over as if I only stopped people that were 30 over. He said, I always wrote the maximum amount of tickets. I could sit all night long and write tickets and only pull people over when they're 30 over.
It's interesting that here in small town.
And that was even smaller town. That was up in Big Sandy.
But I'm saying it's interesting in small town. In small town, Jaeger's like, if it's after 1 a.m., they're up to no good. They're breaking it. They're robbing somebody or they're doing some criminal thing. Where in California, they will tell you if it's after 2 a.m., they're drunk. That no matter what.
Well, because in California, the bars close at 1 a.m.
Yeah, so no matter what, they would be like, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're driving down I-5, it's because you're coming from Mexico and you're fucking drunk. I'm like, really? And they're like, pull anybody over if it's it's very rare that somebody's driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning. But then here if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you guys are up to nefarious.
Well,
because it's a smaller town,
and we don't have. There's no bars.
Not to say that somebody driving at 3 o'clock in the morning on the California freeway is not up to nefarious things, but I would assume that a law enforcement officer, because of more people, is going to run into more drunks at that time than they are, second story guys.
Have you noticed here? And maybe it's just because there's less dead trees in the forest, but you'll see somebody, you'll be running 80 miles an hour down the road, and all of a sudden there's 5-6 cars, right? And it's 60 miles, and you got to slow down for these slow pokes. But they're all, you couldn't put, there's not a car length between them, man. Everybody just rides everybody's bumper. So if one person hit a bump, they would all hit each other. It's just it's a trip that's how that is here. Nobody keeps any braking distance or anything.
Because they don't have, I think it's because they don't have real traffic.
Yeah.
Like they don't have real traffic. We're used to real traffic from where we come from.
We're used to seeing lots of accidents.
You're used to, so you keep that distance. Where here it's, the reality is it's even on the 70, it's outside of running into a local law enforcement representative. You can go balls to the wall on that thing. And
now when he says 70, we have a 69 and a 70, and that used to be the way.
Yeah, 70.
The interstate, that's where all your that was like our Route 66. That used to be the way you traveled across the state. And that's where all the mom and pop gas stations and all that stuff that the American pickers were running through. Now the interstate has just destroyed all those small towns.
If you think about task force, right?
Yes.
If
they ain't on the 70.
If the Sinaloa cartel, if they weren't running drugs to Chicago, Atlanta, if they weren't running to Nashville, and splintering out from Nashville, think how poor and lonely these police. I mean, we have extra police officers all along this corridor only because of the drug trade.
Yeah.
If the drug trade disappeared, man, I'll bet Camden PD would be 2 cops.
Yeah. Because Camden, all these police departments they loan officers to the task force. So Spearco actually brought this up yesterday on live feed. He's like, yeah, we've got this area through Dallas, Fort Worth, where the interdiction cops, I go, yeah, we got one right in Dixon, right? They got in trouble because what they were doing is, and Spearco said, they know from the profile, it's usually it's a young girl with a Mexican dude, or a third person in the back. It's just they don't match, right? And he's like, they never stop at the traffic going one way because they don't want the drugs. They stop the traffic coming the other way because that's the money, and they get to retain the money, and there's a financial gain. They actually get to keep a part of this money. Well, they were doing asset forfeiture in Dixon, and the feds got involved, and a bunch of them dudes actually went to jail over it. Like one of the sheriffs in the area had a seized Mercedes. They were like all kinds of shit. It was at his house. And
that's Waverly Sheriff's Department. That's how they paid for the shooting range that they were doing all the concealed carry classes at, because a semi-truck that was, I think it was Texas plated. So a semi-truck with no trailer was driving down 70. And so they lit him up, and they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I just had to get my truck fixed, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, do you mind if we search your truck? And he's like, no problem, search it. And they pulled $5 million out of the headliner.
Did he know it was?
And he was like, well, again, when you're money muler, it's not my money. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, they just take the money and let him go.
They just take the money, and I don't know if they impounded his truck or not, but then they kept the $5 million.
So Yeager said he had gone to some interdiction classes, and he said one of the key tells is when you see semi-trucks driving down the road, and they've got all these extra lights on them. They've got all those yellow lights, and they've got all the chrome. He said that's a dude that's running drugs and getting cartel money, and he is an independent that owns that truck, and he's putting those decorations on the truck. He said it's always a tell.
I had a Escondido police officer, I don't know what we were doing, some class, and he was talking about they got a call from a stereo shop in Escondido, and the guy's like, "Hey man," and this is in the 90s, so this would have been crazy. He's like, hey, I got a guy here that has this bullshit Chevy Blazer that's trying to put $5,000 worth of stereo equipment in the Chevy Blazer. You guys might want to check him out. And sure as shit, it was that. He was running dope, and so he had cash. And he's like, I don't know what to do with all this cash. Let me just spread it around. And, you know, even in the 90s, $5,000 of stereo equipment was a fucking lot of stereo equipment. So
that could have been us, though. I mean,
no, it could have been you.
Overzealous stereo dude. Because I mean, I put $7,000 of stereo shit just in that Suburban. We were always putting stereos.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that no one ever came and was like, well, I'm sure. I bet they did. I'll bet they did because the difference is the difference would be, John, you owned a business. I am sure that this guy was like living in his mom's basement.
Yeah, maybe.
You know,
meth mouth guy.
Yeah, living in his mom's basement.
Yeah, it's a trip.
But yeah, asset forfeiture, should it be illegal? Probably.
Like I'm concerned with assets forfeiture when I would give Cody and the boys a couple grand. Like, I'm going to buy this thing off of Marketplace, or even when it used to be Craigslist, right? And the dude's like, I'm only taking cash. Will you take it? No, I'm only taking cash. Okay, whatever. So I'd send them with $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever it was. But I was always concerned that law enforcement would stop them and just take the money. Always. I'm like, look, if you get stopped, hands on the wheel. If they end up pulling you out, searching the vehicle, don't get arrested over this. It's not fucking worth it. And you see all these videos where people fight asset forfeiture. Like, there's a Marine who had retired, and he'd pulled his money out, and he was moving, right? And he had like 31 grand. Cop stops him, starts asking questions. DEA dude shows up, take the money. That was his whole life savings on the side of the fucking road. Went to court, fights it, pays all the lawyer fees.
Yeah.
They don't pay, even when you get the money back, they don't pay for your legal fees. Like, they make it, it's literally, they drag it out long enough that it's going to cost you as much as the money costs, so they never have to give the money back.
That's part of the underbelly of the legal system in the United States, is the big guy, whether he's right or wrong, but especially when he's wrong, what he's hoping is he can drag it out in court long enough to where you will settle, or you will just be like, fuck it, I can't afford these lawyers anymore. Did you see Diesel?
Yeah, Whistling Dixie.
Whistle
somebody
Dixie.
Somebody just brought that up on a video the other day.
With the fishing thing?
No, tell me about it, because I'm not sure what happened.
Not fishing. It was, so they were on Zodiacs. I'm not Zodiacs, sorry. Jet skis. They were on jet skis, and they were on this lake, and they got a ticket for splashing. That the wildlife officers said that they were too close, right? That the two jet skis were too close. And he's like, fuck, we were 100 yards away from these guys. There's no way they could have.
So they're saying that they splashed the wildlife officers?
No. That the two jet skis themselves were too close. So again, we're talking about punishing a crime with no victims whatsoever, right?
No victims.
And so they got a ticket for this, and apparently it's a felony in this state where he's at, or it's a big deal. Like, he was like, oh shit, I'll just go pay the fee. I'll go pay the fine. It became a big deal, and so he's fighting it. And I think he's saying he's already like $30,000 into it, and he's like, I'm gonna fight this whole fucking thing because this is complete bullshit. And he goes, fortunately, I have the resources to do it, but my boy who was with me, he don't have that kind of money. He can't fight this.
Yeah, they'll come to you and they'll try to settle out. Hey, we'll just make this go away. Non-disclosure. You can't ever fucking speak about this again.
Because what they did was I forgot about this.
Just plead to a misdemeanor, 6 years of 6 months of probation.
I forgot about this. What they actually did was they gave him the tickets. He went to fight it, and then had a private conversation with the wildlife officers and the prosecutor, and he was like, hey, we know you have a lot of reach. Will you do a wildlife safety video on your program, right? On your podcast, on your channel. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, my ad spots are $2 million.
Well, again, it should be the principle of it, right? You gave me a ticket because you wanted to get me in here and fucking then be like, we'll let all this go.
Do you think that's what it was?
Yeah, 100%. 100% fucking corruption.
We have a friend who got in trouble for some Toyota shit. He didn't steal the vehicle. He didn't carjack the vehicle. He had a Toyota, and some of the VINs didn't match on it. So he goes to court, and it's like this weird thing. He sells the Toyota truck to some woman, and like 2 years later, somebody comes and they're like, "Hey, you sold this vehicle to this person, and it had been involved in a carjacking or something." So they end up putting him in federal prison over this thing. And he's like, "Look, I'll go overseas as a contractor, as my, I don't know what is it called when you don't go to jail, instead you do like public work."
Yeah.
Whatever that's called. So it's looking like the lawyers have agreed on this. This is going to happen. And at the last minute, the judge gives him like fucking 5 years in federal prison. Just makes an example out of him. It's just fucking crazy. And they said, well, it's always white guys that get these deals, and we can't let another white. Like, that's what the lawyer said. It was because he was a white dude. It's just nuts. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
No victim, no crime. I was in Lompoc prison with a dude. His name's Michael McCoy. Look him up. Look up Mike McCoy, McCoy Industries, and Wall Street Journal. Like, you'll probably find this story. He had people investing in things, right? He was taking his investors. He had some investors, and he was taking money, and he had taken some of their money and invested it in bringing these car dealerships into the United States. You might have heard of them. They were called Kia. So everybody made money, and the feds found all this somehow, and they make this big deal, and they fucking indict him. He's going to court, and he has all these people, all the investors show up to court, and they're like, "We don't want to prosecute him. We all made money. There was no money lost. We're not victims in any of this." And they fucking sent him to jail for a long fucking time. He was in federal prison. And you always hear these stories, and you're like, nah, there's got to be something more to this, right? And maybe the real story is he didn't pay off somebody, or he upset the wrong politician, so they jammed it and made a deal over it. But when you read all the information that was out there, it was exactly what he said. There was no victim to the crime, but the feds, he made somebody look bad or told somebody fuck off when they wanted part of the deal or whatever it was. And that's always fucking how it is.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
Well, what's the solution?
AI takes over our government and runs everything smoothly.
Like an old Star Trek episode?
Yeah, like an old Star Trek episode where we just spend all our time on the holodeck playing laser tag and shit.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what's happening now. They're just living life in TikTok.
Yeah, that's an example of that's a good example of Chat GPT. Like, people are like, "Oh my God, Chat GPT. Oh, it's so smart. It's so smart." It's Chat GPT is not smart, guys. Chat GPT just has access to everything.
Well, they say it doesn't have any access to the internet.
It has access to everything. They're giving it access, right? So they give it access, they feed it what they want it to know, and so it has access to everything. And then it has access to how, for example, I can show you a class on how to read a book, right? And so Chat GPT has that. It has, for example, like I saw somebody recently just making a big deal about, there's a Chat GPT made a Drake album that is better than Drake, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's because Chat GPT has access to all those files. And so you do too. You have access to all that thing you carry around on your phone. You have access to, you want to learn how to speak Farsi? You have access to it. You want to learn how to do calculus? You have access to it. We have access to all the same thing Chat GPT does. It's just that computers themselves are so much faster. So because they are so much faster, they are able to spit something out that you're like, "Oh my God, you're fucking brilliant." I'm not brilliant. I'm just following the code that has been given to me.
Right. You can tell it to look up a Michael Jackson song and have it sing it as though it's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It would take us forever to do that.
It would take us forever to do that. But again, we have access to that knowledge just like ChatGPT, just like the new thing that Google's putting out. It's access to knowledge and computing speed that makes it faster. It's like, for example, if we could link our 3 brains together, we would be faster in our responses. Our response times would be faster. There was a big thing when Elon talks about the Neuralink.
Would I wake up with lots of tattoos? You might not have noticed this, but I've been working on some body modification. Can you see it?
Just the bottom part. What is it? Are you scarring? What's going on there?
He's got some tattoos. I'm taking it a step further.
You want scarification? I mean, that's one way to go.
I ran into some fucking cattle panels last night, and they fucking scratched
the cattle panel will get you. But Elon has talked about this, that if all brains were linked together, so we're afraid of AI, right?
Yeah, you'd be able to pull from everybody.
But if all brains were linked together, we would have more computing power than any creation that they could do. So,
but people have fucked up shit in their head too.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You don't know what you're getting.
That's the problem. I don't know if I want to see what Brandel has seen. I don't know if I want to see
like the dude living across the street that's burning copper every night. Like I don't want his information in my head.
That is the problem with the Neuralink. Is what kind of access would they have to have in order to make you smarter? Now, some people are going to be like, I don't care. But again, what kind of access? Because, how do you filter it? You have a woke society right now that is punishing people for things they said 10 years ago. If they can get in your head, I don't care who you are.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I actually brought that up, I think, on Wrangler Star the other day.
If they can get in your head, Mother Teresa has said some fuck yous.
So I got to pee. Let's talk about being punished for things that have happened in the past that were not illegal that have become illegal in the future and how they're going to punish people. I want to discuss that.
All right.
But I got to go pee.
John's going to pee.
Have you been to a Target lately?
I mean, where's the Target? The only Target I know of is in San Marcos or in Temecula.
San Marcos. There's a Target in Jackson. There's Targets all over Nashville.
When I'm going to Jackson, I'm not going to buy socks.
So we went with the intention of going to Target because I wanted to see how prevalent the crazy clothes were.
Yeah.
And we forgot to go. They've since pulled all that shit out of there. Their revenue was $9 billion down within like 2 days or something over that. Now, who knows if it's back up? I haven't heard. I think they were kind of hoping all that shit went away. Some of them removed it. Some of them put it back. The crazy shit about it, though, like everybody there. So the LBGT, it's not about being gay. It's about the fucking
grooming.
tranny shit. Yeah,
it's about the grooming because it was all child's. It was all child's clothes.
It was a bunch of satanic shit. So the designer that did all of the artwork on there, if you look at his Instagram page is Church of Satan. Like it's against everything that is the majority of who would be the Target, average soccer mom shopper of Target.
Well,
a ton of people fucking canceled their Target credit cards and all that shit.
Here's the thing that I don't understand. Like I don't understand why Target went
and put it in the fucking front too.
But why Target went and
because it's the ESG score shit.
Yeah, but they could have got their ESG score. Like, okay, if it would have been a bunch of men, or I'm just saying this because of sizes. If it had been just a bunch of men and women's clothing up front that had gay pride shit on it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Soccer moms would have walked right by it and went, whatever, you go, girl, and would have bought their shit. But because they were doing it to children,
it was girls bathing suits with wiener pockets,
which is 100% grooming, which is grooming. That's why they lost all that money.
There was a lot of
that
stuff
doesn't make
on
any
there
sense.
Too. Like I don't remember what they were, but they like had an undertone of violence. Like I don't look the other way, I reload. Like it's something silly, some silly shit like that. Have you seen the men's underwear that have ball pockets on them? That does not seem.
Pockets for individual testicles, or
like you put your balls in these fucking pockets.
I don't think that's what they're for.
No, I'm sure Shapiro says it is.
Wiener goes in front, then there's a ball pouch behind it.
Okay.
So you look like an anteater?
So have you tried these?
Absolutely not.
Come on, I don't believe you.
No.
You know way too much about it to not know.
No.
Okay, I know that there is a, which is what I thought of, is that there's a specialty thing called the Packer.
What is that?
It's a pair of underwear.
Okay.
That women who transition to men, they can buy a Packer, which is a fake cock that they put in that underwear, so that when they're walking around, it looks like they got junk.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, why not just put a banana in there? Well, I mean, it would mold or whatever, but there's dudes. Do you remember Peter Kakalis?
I don't understand why would you want to separate?
Okay, hold on.
Okay, Peter Kakalis, I don't remember.
Soldier Fortune.
The
bald dude who was the head editor, Peter Kakalis.
Are we talking about the guy who used to pack all the time?
Yep.
Oh my God.
He had a fucking dildo. Like, he would walk around and he was like, you couldn't, because he was an old creepy dude then. And I was probably 25, maybe if that, Soldier of Fortune. So it was like 1990 was the last Soldier of Fortune convention.
I seen him perusing the LA gun show, packing that heater.
And he would wear like these super fucking tight pants. And he had like a fucking 14-inch dildo that because sometimes he had it, sometimes he didn't. He would just put this fucking dildo in his pants. And he'd come up and like put his leg up on some shit. Like I wonder
if he was gay.
Maybe. I mean, he came up to us at Soldier Fortune show like the second time we were there, and he's like, "Man, I really like this backpack. You know, you want to if you hook me up with one of these?" And I'm like, "I'll sell you one." Like I didn't. He's like, you kind of got to grease the skids, you know.
Lou Ferrigno did the same thing.
I'm like, you might not know this, but I'm on the cover of 3 of your magazines and in like 27 articles without greasing your skids.
Lou Ferrigno did the same thing when he came to Strider's booth one time, and I was like, I didn't. Again, he came over and he was like, "Oh, I really like these knives." Blah blah blah. He's talking about
thing with
and then
who's the fat martial arts guy?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. What's his name? He did all the action movies.
Okay. I know who you're talking. Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal. Same thing.
Yeah. He did the whole peruse on the knives, and then I'm like, yeah, this is how much it is. And he's like, and he immediately kept going down the aisle, and then his guy came right in behind, and he's like, what Lou's really trying to say is it'd be really cool if you. I'm like, man, Lou got the damn Hulk money. He can afford to buy this shit. If a Lance Corporal can afford to buy this shit, old Hulkster can buy one, or old Hulk can buy one too. But I didn't really say that to him. I'm just like, well, they're $400 if you want to.
Yeah, we only have 100 of them, and we're going to sell every one of them.
And then
the thing is,
like, I think Dwayne was so mad at me though. He was like,
"But you never, nothing ever. One. Look how many hoops we jump through to build stuff for movies, right?
Right.
We never once have I had a motherfucker be like, "Hey, I bought this thing because I saw you in the credits," and you're never in the credits anyways. The prop department owns it. Yeah. Like, you never get anything for it. No. Never do you get anything for it.
You have to build something really big though. Like if we built fake GT Mustangs that they could use in Fast and the Furious, then people would know us. But
yeah, we'd fucking and it's like John Carver told me. If you guys don't know, John Carver started the company Eagle Industries, and he said, he's like, we do these government. He said it about government contracts. He's like, you do these government contracts, and an inspector comes in. And if you get a good one, it's good. If you don't, it's like they hate you, and they're looking at so many pieces per time, and they're inspecting stuff, and they'll find one thing, and they'll reject the entire batch, and then you've got to go. It's just always a mess. And he's like, you spend years doing all this government contract stuff, and to do that, you've shut down all your individual customers. And then when the government contract's done, if you don't have another government contract, you have no customers.
Right.
He's like, let me tell you something, because I'm like, hey, where do I buy these things? I'm going to be as big as you one day, and I want to do what you're doing. And he puts his arm around my shoulder. He's like, come here, son, let me tell you something. And he talked to me for like 3 hours, and he still didn't tell me where the hooks. I still to this day don't know where that wire hook thing came from. He's like, you can find it. I'm not going to help you compete against me, but I will give you some advice. And he said, I had a lot more fun when I was running my own shop and working with 10 people. And he said, a lot of days, me personally, I had more money doing small work than when I was doing big work. He's like, I have over 1,000 employees right now. And he said, we'll go we'll go at the beginning of the month. I won't have payroll to make payroll. He's like, we always have to do something. He said, I always owe something. I never have, just because the company makes all that money, that doesn't mean you make all that money. And especially when you have other business owners and investors in the company you're beholden to, it is not, he's like, it is just not fun anymore. But the one thing I did get is like all the gear on display on the tables, they had these little air cells and they had this little balloon pump and they'd pump them up and then they were self-stick. Like that's why the gear looked so good, because it filled every corner, right? So John was very cool over the years. Like he would always stop at my shop. We'd go have lunch when he was in San Diego, and because he was there stealing all the military work we were trying to get from the Marine Corps. I mean, shit, you guys had a colonel retire and go work for Eagle.
That's common. That's very common.
I believe
I
believe Coates went and worked for him.
It's possible. I think it was Coates.
Bob Coates.
Yeah,
Colonel Coates.
I think it was Coates.
Yeah,
I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, that's very common. I mean, we had the one big one that I remember is we had a fucking a 2-star. I think it was a 2-star who retired and went to become the board of director, the head of the CEO of this fucking tent company. And that year, the first time since World War II, the Marine Corps is like, hey, it'd be cool if we had a new tent. Let's get a new tent. And they got a design that the Marine Corps has never used before. And it was like, it's interesting that now that there's
that Eureka tent, that three-man tent.
Now that there's a goddamn 2-star on the board, we're shelving the half shelters that we've been using since World War II.
Yeah, now they're Eureka had them, and then MSR made them.
Yeah,
it's a decent tent. I've got a couple of them, and now they're titled. They're called. They go under Light Fighter. And I don't know if Light Fighter is the Light Fighter that was James's company in Hopkinsville up here in Clarksville, or if it's just a company called Light Fighter. I don't know if it's the same deal, but they're still around because I went to buy a couple of them recently.
Yeah, the Light Fighter tent's still being used.
We had some shady shit. You remember Malinik? Master Guns, Gunny Malinik. He was in charge of Bridgeport Mountain Warfare School.
Yeah.
He came back and worked, and he came in and worked for me for a little while. And he's a character, man. Like, he is a fucking drill instructor to the, like, super trooper drill instructor. Like, everything he said, they call him Skeletor, But he did some cool stuff, and we had a mountain ruck, and the Marine Corps was shopping a mountain ruck. So he's like, hey, I'm going to take this thing in there. Well, we had a couple dudes there that he didn't realize were in the know with our shit. So they break out they're at some big conference table or something, and all the brass is there, and they bust out Marcor Syscom and a bunch of other reps and stuff were there. So they get all these rucks out, and they're like, okay, cool. This is internal. This is not internal. And he had done one himself, which I didn't know. And he had mine to deliver to the meeting. And I feel like it was Cheney. I don't remember who it was, but somebody's like, hey, where's that SOE ruck at? And he didn't fucking present it until he got busted out on it and brought it in. Yeah, there was some shit over there. There's
always shady shit with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. There's always shady. When we did the sniper symposium for new optics, or not new optics, but a night vision device. The current night vision device that we were using was the Simrad. And the Simrad, while it was a technologically advancement for snipers initially,
is that the PVS 10 or something? That big huge one.
No, it's. I think it was actually designated the 9. The PVS 10 was the dual, which was. And so
first time I saw that was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so we're doing this big symposium. And everybody is kind of leaning towards the PVS 10, which was a dual system. It was a night vision and a day scope. There were drawbacks to that, as always, but the Simrad had a lot of problems. Like it had a lot of problems. It was big, made the gun super top heavy. It didn't stay zeroed very well. It had a lot of problems. And this other device was an advancement. And so we go to the symposium and they're like, here's the urgent needs statement, here's the thing. And then when you look at the way it's written, and the way it's written, you're like, wait a minute, this statement is basically saying Simrad. Like it just described everything about the Simrad. I'm like, what the fuck? And man, for a day and a half, it was almost West Coast against East Coast, which was pretty weird. For a day and a half, we were just fighting over the Simrad, PVS-10, blah blah blah. We were just fighting back and forth about it, and finally, civilian contractor came in, like the civilian that was in charge of the whole thing. She's like, "Look, guys, this is a formality. You're going to sign off on it. We're buying Simrads. It's just the contract is already done. We're buying Simrads. This is a formality. We need your rubber stamp on here because you're the fucking end user. We need you to stamp this because we're already buying these Simrads." And so it was a fucking big fiasco. Now on the West Coast, we had already bought PVS-10s and were using them in the MUSOC program to pretty good success. Matter of fact, first nighttime sniper kill War on Terror was with a PVS-10, not a Simrad. Fuck you, Simrad. Though, again, if you want to send me one, I have a sniper rifle with a mount. I could use it. Anyways,
Is Simrad still around?
Yeah, Simrad's still around, and so that
are the issues.
They still have the same, no, they still have the same issues. So that was pre War on Terror. War on Terror happens, and War on Terror happens, and they do another urgent need statement, exactly the same one we did in the 90s, about how the Simrad sucks and it doesn't stay zeroed, and we need fucking long range, blah blah blah. And they do a whole nother symposium and shit, and it was Simrad or the UNS. Now the UNS is a clip-on device that goes in front of your day optic, right? Everybody, they do a test at Quantico, and everybody's like, fucking UNS, we want the UNS, we want the UNS, we want the UNS. And Simrad goes after the military, and they're like, the UNS is not a long-range sniper night vision device. Your statement says it has to be a long-range sniper device, so it doesn't matter what you want. This is what you have to buy. And fortunately, the War on Terror was going on, so the fucking Marine Corps had some pocket change. They pulled their pocket change out with their lint, and the general goes, the fucking general, I wish I know who he was because he was a baller. Civilian contractor again, he's like, how many fucking Simrads do we have to buy to fulfill the contract? And I think it was 100, right? That he was like, you have to buy 100 Simrads to fulfill the contract. He's like, okay, this is what I want you to do. Buy 100 Simrads, put them on the fucking shelf, send UNSs to all the fucking fleet. And so everybody got UNSs. They bought the Simrads. They went into a dusty closet somewhere, which I thought was somewhere in the United States, but what I soon learned, it was in Iraq. So when we got our UNSs, and then when I got into Iraq, I fell in on 15 Simrads. Fell in on 15 Simrads that I had to sign for. Motherfuckers never left the box.
What's an UNS?
An UNS is a universal night sight.
Who makes that?
Otis made them. I believe Knights made it some. I don't know who makes the current ones.
Is it a day-night scope?
No, it's just a night vision device that goes in front of your day scope.
Got it. Okay. All right. Got it.
Goes in front of your day scope, and they're really fucking good. And it definitely improved the sniper world because now you don't have this stupid thing up on the top mount.
Because every time I've heard UNS, an UNS is a urgent need statement. The UNS, it's an urgent need statement.
Yeah,
I've always heard.
Yeah, but it's also
we've got an UNS statement.
Universal night sight.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry, but it's also universal night sight. But that was an UNS that got us the universal night sight.
Tell me about it's John Matthews, right?
John Matthews.
U.S. Optics.
Yes. Tell
me about U.S. Optics.
What about it?
I don't know. I just remember there were these fucking badass, cool anodized. We used to hammer nails in 2x4s at the gun show with them.
The U.S. Optics scopes, when John was running that.
He ground some of the lenses for the Hubble telescope. For you
when
guys
they were
that
running
know.
that, okay, I would say this. He's probably a great. I mean, I'm sure he's a great idea guy and a great maker of scopes, but
Because they're not the same company anymore, right?
Yeah, terrible business. I mean, he terrible businessman. He brought other people in, and they immediately did a hostile takeover.
Well, his son
stole that fucking company.
His son had some issues.
Yeah.
We had a Xerox box show up full of those scopes, and then when you put them on rifles, they didn't shoot where they were supposed to. It turns out the reticles were for some DOE caliber or something weird.
Well, I think that was the problem with U.S. optics back in the day, was they were trying to please too many people, right?
It was it looked so fucking awesome.
Yeah, those scopes are
gun.
Those like I have 3, and they're good shooting. They're good optics. But I said, and I think I told him this, is you've got too much shit on the menu. There's like you could, if you wanted your reticle in mils with yardage, click dots with special ticks every quarter and like anything that you could possibly, like if you wanted and I believe he told me this, if you wanted your mil dots to look like Mickey Mouse ears, they could do it. Like they could put Mickey Mouse ears in your fucking scope.
Whatever happened to just Premier reticle elliptical four dots per quadrant?
I think for their type of shooting.
That's why the SOE tattoo is that way, because that's what you guys had.
Well, I think that that they were trying to placate to bench rest guys, because that's who was really using those scopes. And so if you had some crazy idea in your head of some mathematical formula that the Egyptians used to put in there, they could do it. And so if you want an SN10, you could go and look, and there would be 32 different reticles, and you're like, dude, I just want a mil dot reticle in the scope. I don't want all this other bullshit. And so I think that was what was slowing him down, is because obviously you can't do mass production. You can't really be doing mass production when you're allowing people to have 90 different reticles, because it's just not mass production.
Yeah, when I make a post like, hey, here's this new product, what would you guys change? Fuck, don't ever do that.
No.
Never ask the internet, because the guy that puts the craziest shit out there, when you don't choose his idea, you've completely lost him as a customer. Where if you'd have never asked, he's still probably going to be a customer. Like, don't ask unknowns. Like, people will come to you. Like when we were building new shit, it's because some dude walked in here that they flew out here, and he's like, "This is the thing. We need a pouch for this."
Yeah,
so we would build it.
Me and Chris went up there. This was a little bit, I think, right before they did the hostile takeover. Like, I think he had like a month left before they did the hostile takeover on his ass. And we were walking through the shop.
Chris
Hayes?
Okay, I thought you meant this one from Strider.
Yeah, Chris Hayes. And so we were walking through the shop, and we're looking at stuff. And so he's talking to us, and he's like, I haven't been paid in 3 months. There's no money.
John Matthews was saying
he's like,
this.
there's no money. There's just no money. And we're walking around the shop, and I'm just looking at shit. Like at this point, they had the contract for repairing the inertals.
Because there were scopes everywhere.
I'm looking. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any money? And like he had a. So this is pre-war on terror. He had a inertal scope that had a bullet hole through it that got shot. Now, that scope had to have got shot on a range somewhere. Like there's definitely 2 guys that know how that happened, but there's probably like 8 guys that know how that happened. And I'm like, he's like, oh, this is kind of cool. This got shot and shit like that. And I go, dude, that's $1,000 right there. He's like, what are you talking about? He goes, guys know where that happened at, and they will pay the money to fucking have that. And this was before you could even get a inertal scope.
Right, they didn't exist anymore.
They didn't exist, right? So they weren't out on the market before the marksmanship program was selling them.
And was it the same when Unertals came back? It wasn't the same company. It wasn't the original people, right?
No, it wasn't the original people.
Didn't Springfield have it or something?
No, that's a full another dive. But he's got all this stuff, right? And then I'm walking through. I'm like, he's got full schematics of the inertal scope in his office, just in a corner. Like he's like showing them to me, and I'm like, dude, I'd pay $100 for that. You could make copies of it and sell it for. Nobody has that. Nobody has that. And so he's like, nobody wants to do that. And then we go into his office and we go into the conference room, and there's this cabinet full, not full. There was quite a few. World War II Japanese guns. And then there was a goddamn, a Sterngewehr. He's got a Sterngewehr in there, which is the German submachine gun, MP-44 maybe. He's got one of those in there. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? You don't have any money. That damn thing right there is, if it's legit, that's a $100,000 gun. And he's like, oh no, that's not, that's a DWAT. It's not real. I can't remember what was done to it because it was his dad's. His dad had collections, and that stuff got left there. But I'm like, I know all these Japanese rifles are valuable, and then I'm looking at this. I pull the Sterngewehr out, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, I know you don't understand this because you're not in this world. I go, but this magazine that is real is worth a ton of fucking money because they can't get them. And then I'm looking at it, and there was only like 4 parts on there that weren't legit. Everything else was legit. I go, dude, Chris, back me up. I go, this right here, there's $30,000 worth of shit right here that guys that have those guns can't get the parts, and you've got these parts just sitting in here collecting dust. They'll pay for that shit.
And back then, that money is worth 3 times what it was now. Like, it's nuts, yeah. So
like he would have stuff. He had stuff all over the place, and I'm like, Jesus, I really, when he said that, like that, the scope that had been shot, when he said that it wasn't worth anything, I should have been like, yeah, you're right. Let me have that motherfucker, because that's the way he was treating that kind of stuff, which was like he had a. Did he just not have any capital to continue the business, or I think that's what happened. Was the capital slowed down, and so they did a hostile takeover. And then again, if you're a company if you're a small company that's trying to operate in California, no, your best bet is to get the fuck out of California. And they got out of California, went to I think they're in Colorado now, and I believe that most of their manufacturing has been moved offshore. It's all Japanese shit.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Is there
anything in your head? I have something I want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you remember? He's got to be dead now, so we can talk about this. There was a really old man in San Diego area, kind of somewhere. Do you know who I'm talking about? In a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we went to his house.
Yeah.
To pick something up.
Yeah. I got, you know what?
How much of that do you want to go into? Why were we there? What were we picking up?
I don't know if I can tell that story. I mean, have I told that story before? Legitly? Because it
doesn't exist anymore. It's in an armory somewhere now.
No, it's not even in an armory. It had to have been taken apart.
Right. So
it had to have been taken apart.
The program doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's 20 years ago.
Again, still, I don't know.
I've heard you tell this story.
I know I've told the story, but I don't know if I've digitally told the story so the whole world knows, and that I don't want the sergeant major coming in and being like, "Hey,
we're bringing you back in.
So we can yell at you. I'm going to send you a worded email,
tersely worded.
You're getting a letter of caution.
Halt, or I'll say halt again.
Since we did it twice. A letter of caution. The second time, all they gave was a letter of caution. So I wonder if I would get a letter of caution. Could you give me a letter of caution?
20 years after the fact?
I mean,
how long have you been out of the military?
Since
10 years?
2008, I think.
How long is that?
So it's been a long time.
Okay, tell the story.
I don't know if I can tell the story because there are other players involved that would be implicated.
Okay, just tell what happened. The thing broke.
So we had this thing. Maybe I can tell you. Maybe I can tell kind of it. I mean, I don't. Again, I wish Sperling was here because he could give me legal counsel on this, on whether I should say this. Okay, so I was working at this school, and we had this let's just say we had this piece of equipment that you had to have. Like you had to have in order to graduate the school. And one of my instructors Don't know how it happened, but he broke the thing.
I know how it happened.
I know how it happened too. He broke the thing. Part of this is public record, but part of it, anyways, he broke this thing, and we're freaking out a little bit because the thing's broke. But
was it a student's?
It was a student's. So it's middle of the week. So the thing doesn't have to go into the place where they keep the things. The students get to retain the thing. The students get to retain the thing.
There's two pieces of the thing.
There's two pieces of it. So the instructor tells the fucking student, "Hey, don't worry, we're going to handle this. It's all going to be good." Was it over a weekend? It might have been over a weekend.
A holiday.
Something, because they didn't have to go. They didn't have to go the next day to use the thing, and so I talked to the instructor that was involved, that was about to get his career completely ruined, and I'm like, "Hey, here's a possible solution." See, that's what staff NCOs do. We solve problems before it becomes bigger. Remember that, Marines. I said, "Here's a possible solution. The thing that is broken is actually still made. Like, it's still made. I'm pretty sure that if you called them, you could get the thing and they could mail it to us and we could get it all put back together." And so he's like, "Really? We could do that?" I go, "I mean, there's nobody in this room that wants the heat that is about to come down on us." And he's like, "Okay." So he calls, and the company that made him still had, he was like, "Oh God, you're like the last people in the world that we would think would need one of these." And we explained the situation to him, and he's like, "No problem. We'll FedEx it out. It'll be there tomorrow." And so they overnight shipped that motherfucker, and it showed up. It showed up on our doorstep the next day. Now the next problem is the thing has to be put together, and it has to be put together in a certain way so that
the one thing fits in the other.
So the one thing fits in the other, and ultimately it has to work. And so I called the only person I know the only person I know who does precision rifles.
It's okay.
I just gave it up.
All right. They knew what it was.
I called the only person I know, and he is an Italian mobster that lives in Beverly Hills, and he is 100%. Everything is 100%, and I'm like, "Hey, here's my situation. I need to get this thing. I need to get this action bedded into this rifle stock.
Accurized."
And he's like, I go, "And I need to do it right now. I will drive up to you. And to get this done." And so he's like, "I don't really do that here. My guy is down there in San Marcos." I go, "Your guy?" He goes, "I got a guy.
Yeah, there's always a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy that does that shit." Now, he's eccentric. He's a weirdo. But he can do it. And I go, "Look, it's got to be the special. It has to be Marine tech. It has to be, everything has to be legit." Okay. And he's like, "Yeah, he can do it. He can do it. No problem." And so,
do you want to tell him what it is now that the cat's out of the bag?
So one of my instructors ran over an M40 sniper rifle.
A real one.
Yes, a real. He ran over the stock, and fortunately it broke at the pistol grip, and we were able to acquire a new stock. And so I don't know how it happened, but I had a stock break off, and my neighbor drilled dowels into it, and we tried to glue it, but it never did hold. Well, this had to be, this had to pass the sniff test, right? And it had to pass the sniff test. So anyways, so this guy lives in San Marcos, and I've been told that he's very eccentric, and
he had to be 65 when
he was old. He was old. He was a dinosaur. Like, he was old. And you're going to understand why I say he was old. So Mike tells us where to go. And so we go to San Marcos. Everybody's freaking out, right? Because, again, M40 sniper rifle. But it's a bolt action rifle. And anyways, there's more stories with bolt action rifles. But so I take it to this guy's house, and he's living in a regular neighborhood. And
like this normal 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath,
single story house, big garage up front, and he has modified it in a way that the garage door is no longer a door. It's actually a wall, and he has a small door inlet into the garage door. So when you walk in, you're actually walking down a hallway.
But the whole hallway.
Yeah.
the
The whole hallway, down along the bottom and on a second rack up top, both sides is lined with guns.
You couldn't wedge another gun.
Yeah, you couldn't wedge
in
another
there.
gun in
There was
there.
hundreds of them.
You couldn't wedge another gun in there. Both sides of the wall was lined with guns. They were all, older guns, K98s, they were all mostly, for the most part, I don't think I saw any, they were all, for the most part, bolt-action guns, but not nice sniper rifles or anything like that. It was, classic bolt-action guns.
And this guy, he would hand engrave everything.
Everything for Mike.
He built barrels and everything, like rifled barrels, did everything.
And so you have this hallway that you go down, and at the end of the hallway, there is a small, it was probably, I don't know, it was probably, I want to say small, but it wasn't that small. It was probably
the actual room.
No, at the end of the hallway, it was definitely bigger than the benchmark site. Our benchmark sign was a Hitler Youth picture. There was a Hitler Youth picture of a Hitler Youth, of a young lad, and a Hitler Youth knife with the picture, right? Usually the two are not together because the
other one's been hunted.
Yeah, they're just usually not together. But there's this Hitler Youth knife. I want to say that there was a ribbon on it. And then the Hitler Youth knife was with the picture. And we go around the corner, and there's this old man who definitely was the right age, the current right age, to be the young man in the photo. Not saying he was a Nazi, but
he did resemble him.
It smelled like Nazis in there. And so he's like, because I don't know how him and Mike talked.
No idea.
Because this guy had a, very European, harsh tone about him, and Mike is he's excited. He's always excited. Doesn't matter what he's talking about. He could be talking about a slice of pizza, but he's excited about it. And so I'm trying to explain to him that I need Marine Tech.
Had you ever been to Mike's house in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, I have.
It was like something straight out of Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
They had the whole kitchen was done as though it was like 1950.
Yep.
It was like that avocado green.
So
he could have had anything in the world, and that's what they had.
The funny thing is, so again, where his house is at.
Yeah, detached,
right?
the big detached garages. And
the very first time I went to Mike's house, this is a house in Beverly Hills, real close to Rodeo Drive. It's like a single block that's left in downtown Beverly Hills area. That house has to be, sorry, Mike, if I'm misquoting, but it's got to be a $3 or $4 million house down there.
At least.
The
first time, are you going to say there was a bunch of rifles laying?
No, first time I showed up, it was a M2 50 cal on a tripod in the goddamn from the street.
You can see it. First time I rolled in, there was two Barretts laying in the driveway.
What's that over there? Well, you got an M2 there. So crazy guy. Only the only guy I've ever met that's had a legit concealed weapon permit in L.A. County.
Yep. As a civilian,
has the mayor on speed dial. Anyways, he was just he is still just a character, a very funny character, and everything is 100%, and it's full throttle.
Somebody hit me up the other day that knew him. He's like, "Hey, we have a mutual friend." He showed up on my live feed. He's like, "I've been to Scully's house." I'm like,
"Oh yeah,
who the fuck are you?"
I think I know who it is now, but So we are. I'm attempting to explain to this very European gentleman what we need done. We need this glass bedded into the stock. He needs to use Marine Tech, and it needs to be perfect. Do you understand? And he keeps kind of like, I can do this and this. He keeps trying to European my shit, and I'm like, I don't need you to European my shit. I need my shit to look legit. Okay, it's got to look legit because it's got to pass the Marine Corps smell test. And so he's like, okay, leave it here and come back tomorrow. I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit. I have to make an immediate decision. Now remember, everything in the rear is on fire because this broken rifle. So I make a decision. I'm like, you know what? There's 300 rifles in here. At least 300, right? There's 300 rifles in here.
Way more than that.
He's got a Hitler Youth knife. It's going to be fine. It's probably safer. It's probably going to be safer here than anywhere else in the world, right? It's probably safer here anywhere else in the world. So
the whole house is fortified.
So the whole night, everybody's sweating about this. Everybody's sweating about this M40. And so I go back. He's like, it's all done. It's beautiful. Everything's perfect. But I had to do one thing. I'm like, okay. I go, what was the problem? He's like, I didn't have enough Marine Tech. He goes, I didn't have enough of the glass bedding to finish it. And I'm like, oh my, what are we gonna do? Oh shit, we're all going to hell. And so he goes, but I fixed it. It's okay. It's fine. And so he opens it up and shows me. Right now, there's going to be right now out there somewhere.
Someone knows.
Right
Somebody
now,
saw this.
Out there somewhere, there is a 2112 that is going, holy shit, I remember that. So he took a piece of oak, a small square piece of beautiful wood, and put it inside the bedding to fill the space that was missing. Nice dark brown piece of oak. I think he sanded it and put some polish and shit on it too. It was beautiful. He put it in there, and I'm like, at this point, I'm just like, okay,
this will buy us at least a few months till someone sees it.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm in my head. I'm like, okay, the barrels.
We might all be dead by then.
I go, the barrel's brand new. It's not gonna go in for another 6. It's gonna take 6,000 rounds for it to go in before they hang it apart. You know, this guy's already gonna be out of the Marine Corps. I'm gonna be someone. How are they gonna figure it out, right? And so, gives me the rifle. We take it back. Give it to the kid. Like the day he's got to go back on the range and qualify. Give it to the kid to go qualify. Now, this is the honest to God truth. The craziest thing, the craziest part about that is I don't know what he did. Whether he got some World War II dust and sprinkled it on there.
Lapped the action, accurized it.
That was the tightest shooting gun we ever had. Like once he fucking did it, that gun, it was a laser beam. The kid qualified because it was one of we actually had this conversation. There was a conversation where we were like, you know, he graduates, right? He's going to qualify. If that gun can't hit the broadside of a barn, he's got to graduate because we can't drop him because he can't shoot because he knows, right? He knows that there was some ass grabbery going on. We had the conversation. But
I didn't run over the rifle.
But again, the gun shot like a laser beam. I mean, I think it was probably the best shooting gun we had ever had. Shot like a laser beam.
The Germans.
Yes, this is Germans. Shot like a laser beam. Kid graduated, and story over. Right? We managed to survive. Now
pulled it off.
We pulled it off. Karma, on the other hand, karma does not care what you do in life. Karma is like, hey, this was supposed to happen, and because it was supposed to happen, you guys get to taste this again. And so, literally the next class, the same fucking instructor comes in, and he's like, I ran over a rifle.
No, that didn't. Is that bullshit?
I ran over a rifle. And I'm like, I laugh at him. The instructor, because both times, so the first time, it was not him. It was the corpsman that did it. This time it was actually him. And I laugh. I'm like, you're so full of shit, dude. There's no fucking possible way that happened again. And he goes, nope. I ran over a rifle. But this time, it's the scope. And it actually had fucking broke the scope. And I'm like, fucking nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we can do about that. Nothing. Hammer, maybe. Nothing we can do about that. And then my replacement, because I was on my way out, my replacement is literally in the corner dry heaving. He's like, I'm going to throw up. This is the most craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. What the fuck is going on here? And it was a big deal. It actually was not as big a deal as you think. It did become a big deal, and the fucking guy that hated our guts anyways was like, I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to ruin your guys' life, blah, blah, blah. The guy that hated us there, that was in charge of us.
Not at the school.
Not at the school. Next tier level of when it all came down to the end of when it all washed, the guy who was replacing me got a letter of caution, and I think the instructor also got a letter of caution. It wasn't, which is in the big scheme of things, it's not a promotion killer or anything like that. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of like, hey, you guys need to pay attention to what you're doing. But fuck, dude. As a matter of fact, that instructor,
wasn't Wojcik around there?
I don't know if Wojcik was there at that time or not. He
might have been. So don't say the corn. Was it John? Was his first name John?
I don't. It's been so long.
Big, huge dude.
Again, this was 30 or at least 25 years ago. I don't remember. I don't remember. And I don't even remember if Wojcik was there at the time or not. He might have been.
I thought he took over after you left.
That was also the time period where the upheaval in my life happened. So, karma will get you. So we did save one, and then the other one had to die. It was just the gods wanted a sacrifice.
So, how do you explain, like, couldn't you just said the kid dropped? Well, then the kid would have to go along with it too.
Yeah, and again,
you can't
this
implicate him like that.
But here again, this is a urinal scope. You can't. No one is going to go. You dropped it. Is that what happened? You just holding it and you dropped it.
And it broke in two.
Because that was the fame. That's what made the urinal scope famous, was hammering in tent pegs. So the drop thing wouldn't work at all. It would have to be like, I don't know, like if we ran him over a little bit and then said he fell and shit. Like if there was a bigger injury that happened, they would be okay with it.
We're gonna have to shoot you up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, dude. You're gonna have to take
a little
one
bit
for
shot.
The team.
A little
but
bit
then again,
up.
At that level, he's just a student, so you're like, okay, let's. And it was the SEAL's fault, really.
Two people can keep a secret if one's dead.
Yeah, it was the SEAL's fault, really.
Okay.
Because if the SEALs wouldn't have wanted to come to sniper school, and they wouldn't have gave us that fucking vehicle, then it never would have happened. But that was SOI not giving us a vehicle for a range that was fucking 20 miles away.
How were you supposed to get there?
They didn't. Again, the powers that be. The powers that be.
Nowadays, you just call Uber on base.
Yeah, the powers that be, when we were at that time, because it was in the early years of snipers being at SOI, the powers that be hated us, and for the most part, like they wanted to know what you were doing, but they never ever. They never went like, huh. Okay, so you are doing a qualification. They never were like, let me get this straight. You're doing a qualification that's happening on a Saturday, and you're using ammunition, and I don't have an ammo tech on station on Saturday. How are you guys doing there was never, like, when there was a shenanigan that had to get done, there was never a question about the shenanigan, as long as mission accomplishment. And that was my biggest problem. My biggest problem in the Marine Corps, and it was a failing. It was a failing on my part, is I watched too many John Wayne movies, and in my head, because of watching all those World War II movies and shit, that I believed wrongly that mission accomplishment was the only thing that mattered. That it did not matter how you accomplish the mission, as long as you accomplish the mission. Now,
should that not take primary?
In certain aspects, like on deployment with sniper platoons and stuff like that, that is the only thing that matters, right? The battalion, and when you're at that level and you're really operating, mission accomplishment is the thing that they care about the most. They used to. They care about other things now that don't have anything to do with accomplishing the mission. But they used to care about mission accomplishment. And so, but once you go into the school side of the house, mission accomplishment is not necessarily, my mission accomplishment is not necessarily the most important thing, right? So the most important thing should have been me making AIT do their jobs, because that's what they didn't want to do, was to have to do their jobs and come out and support snipers in any way. And I had still, in the 90s, sniper platoons were ignored and hated from a command's perspective. And so
which also means they were left alone.
Which means we were left alone, which means also that, and I know guys nowadays don't understand this, but it used to be like, you would think that you would get, by the commands hating you, you would think that you would get poor performance out of the snipers. But because the commands hated us, every time they gave us a mission that was like, anybody normal would have been like, fuck, we can't do that. We would be like, we can do it. And we would do it. And then we'd be like, fuck you, as we walk by, when they're like, I literally had officers go, how did you have enough water? Like, how did you have enough food? How did you get from the place that you were at to back here? And we would be like, Scout Snipers, bitch, we can do anything. And that was kind of the attitude. It was us against them. And so when you were given a task back in those days, and this wasn't just our platoon, it was kind of the in the 90s, the motto that Scout Snipers ran by, because everything that you had or everything that you did, you bought and paid for yourself anyways, or you stole the general's tennis ball court net or whatever. And so we were accomplishing a mission without any support whatsoever from the people who were supposed to support us.
Tell them why the tennis court net got stolen.
Well, because it became a tasker, right? You have to make a ghillie suit. You have to make a ghillie suit at sniper school, and sniper school originally it was at SOI at the fucking Quonset huts, and then it got moved to division schools, and it was at division schools, which happens to be right across the street from the base general's house. And when you make a ghillie suit, you use a cami net, or you need some sort of netting. People used all kinds of weird shit back then. They would buy fish nets and any kind of netting you could find, you would use. Well, one class, they're like, there's the general has a tennis ball court,
and it's really close.
And there's nets over there, and it actually became kind of a tradition where they would go. I don't know how the base general, I mean, I'm going to assume that the base general always knew what was going on, but maybe he never knew because
he has handlers.
He's got handlers, and they would go out there in the morning and be like, oh my God.
Yeah, the groundskeeper.
The fucking, what happened to the net, right? And then they put up a new net. So they would, every couple of classes, there would be a raid on the general's house, and they would take the tennis ball court net, cut it all up, and use it with their ghillie suits.
How many ghillie suits would we get out of that?
I mean, probably
4 or 5.
4 or 5, maybe 6, depending on how you cut it. Now, the problem is it's a terrible way to make a ghillie suit, because that net is bulky, it's fat, it's super black. So it's a terrible way to make it, but it's field expedient in the sense of you would get to sniper school. So back in the day, you would get to sniper school and they would be like, you have 24 hours to make a ghillie suit. Well, there was no ghillie kits. There was no jute. You couldn't go out and buy just regular jute. Like you had to cut a sandbag into a square and take individual threads out of the fucking sandbag until you had a pile to put on your fucking ghillie. Like it was building a ghillie suit, a working ghillie suit in 24 hours was a fucking challenge, right? And I I think that's a great idea because you're teaching guys to be field expedient. You're teaching them to move with efficiency, and you're giving them sleep deprivation, which is what you need in individuals for combat anyways. They need to understand that not having sleep is not going to kill them and that they can still function. So I believe that, the way we used to run sniper school is the way it should be run, and fuck you, Marine Corps, you don't know what you're doing.
I was with a couple of your younger Marines.
Yeah.
Who happened to work at the shop. We were going out to dinner one night, and they're like, hold on, we got to stop at this hotel. So I'm like, okay. So we stop at the hotel. We go up there, and they just start grabbing rooms. And they find the housekeeper or whatever, and they get in there, and they steal all the sheets. They took all of the I go, what are you doing? He's like, urban hide sites tomorrow. We have to have urban hide sites. So we're going to take these sheets, and we're going to spray paint them. And they just took them all from some local hotel motel in Carlsbad there.
Again, I know what you guys are thinking. Goddamn criminals. It was not uncommon. Okay, I know that you have people in power right now. They're going to be like, "Oh my God, that's not true. Oh, we do everything to help our fucking Marines." In the 90s, you have to understand. When I got to 19, when I got to 1st Battalion 9th Marines, they were still issuing deuce gear from Vietnam because that's all they had. Guys went to the field without backpacks because they ran out of backpacks with their fucking sea bags. And let me tell you, that's the worst backpack you'll ever use. Those old sea bags. So the Marine Corps didn't have any money. Back then, the commandant, he used to get all giddy and happy about handing the Navy a check at the end of the year and being like, look, we didn't spend all your money. So, Gore-Tex, when Gore-Tex came out, only one company in the battalion got Gore-Tex. That was the boat company because those guys were in the boats and they were getting wet. So what did snipers do? They went and bribed their way into supply and were like, "What's up? You're going to get us some jackets." And the supply guy would be like, "Here's some jackets." And it used to be common. It used to be common. Gunny Petey. Oh, Gunny Petey was a hoot. He was the boat section company gunny, and you would be wearing your Gore-Tex jacket. Boop boop. Probably going out on Libo, boop, because you got a brand new Gore-Tex jacket, and you're fucking walking across the parade deck, and Gunny Petey would see you from the other side of the parade deck, and he'd be like, "You're not in boat company," and he would chase you, and it'd be a big thing where you would run around the fucking camp trying to hide from Gunny Petey because you had your goddamn Gore-Tex jacket. Like, they didn't have any money back then. And so, again, I know people are going to be like, "Oh, that's not true. They would never do that." The Marine Corps used to do this all the time. They would ask you to accomplish a mission where they did not provide you with the right equipment. For example, you went to sniper school. It was a requirement for you to have a ghillie suit. That cost you a pair of camis, and that cost you all the stuff that goes on the ghillie suit. Marine Corps didn't pay for that. Marine Corps didn't get sandbags for you. They didn't do it. So what'd you do? You went to supply. And you were like, "Hey, here's $10. Give me all the fucking green sandbags you can get." And he'd be like, "All right, here's some green sandbags." The $65 pair of camis that you had to buy, you have to fucking totally make them non-serviceable, meaning a ghillie suit is not part of regular equipment issue. So you've just unserviced your camis, which means now you have to buy another pair. The glue, the jute, the fucking net, all that stuff you had to come out of pocket. And contrary to what people believed, Lance Corporals, fucking E5s and below didn't make any money back in the 90s. I mean, I think my first paycheck was $300, something like that.
I remember hearing you talk about it. I think it was like $280 or something.
Yeah, we didn't make any money. There was no money. And so you had to beg, borrow, and steal in order to get the necessary equipment. The same thing with like MUSOC. The MUSOC program was a big deal. Like, it was back then, it used to be a big deal. Like a big fucking deal. When you would go to the MSPF sniper course, the MSPF sniper course had all these requirements for kit and equipment that they didn't pay for. Like, you had to have special civilian bags. You had to have all these civilian clothes that you had to wear out in town on these target sites. You had to have fucking, the bed sheets. You had to have all this shit. Like, for example, they used to do this indoor hide kit. And it was PVC piping that you would make and put up against the window, and then you would black it out. And it was so you could have a hide site in a window, and from outside you couldn't see that there was a hide site there. Fucking Marine Corps didn't buy any of that shit. The Lance Corporals, for the example, again, I told you, the guys that were going through those courses were corporals and below. It didn't, the Marine Corps didn't start dumping money into the Scout Sniper program until the War on Terror. Like all the way up to the War on Terror, we were using a rifle that was 40 years old.
Wasn't there? I remember hearing that there wasn't even enough ammo to do the course. The ammo came from another
sometimes
branch of service.
Well, sometimes that in order to finish qualification, we would get ammo from the Navy. But the difference was because that range was that the Navy side of that range was run by civilian contractors, and those civilian contractors were there all the time. They actually had an ASP. So they had an ASP there where there was ammo on the fucking range. And the contractor was running at the time, he would work it out between, because again, the only other people that were operating on that range besides the SEALs was the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School. And so he would work out deals where he's like, hey, okay, they came up here, they shot, here's 100 rounds that they didn't use. Shoot it. And so we would be able to draw from that ASP, which again, totally frowned on, but it's about mission accomplishment. The Marine Corps, there's a lot of people in leadership positions, especially today, that have no fucking idea what a mission accomplishment is. They don't. They're too worried about the political ramifications of anything they do. And if you're worried about political ramifications, if you're worried about the political ramifications of things that Marines or the Marine Corps is doing, you're doing a disservice to your Marines, and you are also putting Marines in danger. 100%. You are allowing those Marines to be undertrained in a time when they need to be trained the most. A good example is the Carl Gustav. They took the small rocket MOS out of the Marine Corps. So you don't have Rocketeers in the Marine Corps anymore. They got rid of those guys because they're putting the Carl Gustav in this infantry squad. And they're like, hey, you know what we'll do? We'll just make the Carl Gustav a thing that you can get when you need it. So if you need it, you can get it. What happened? 40% accuracy rate. They lost 60% of their accuracy with the weapon system, with a better weapon system, because these guys are not trained on that system, meaning you don't have Rocketeer guys anymore.
Now that's a 20 mic recoilless rifle, right?
I think it is, or it might be 90 millimeter.
So
I can't remember.
I thought it was 20. So the SEALs you're only able to shoot it like once a week or something. It changes your heart rhythm, and it concusses you. Like I even think I heard Mike Glover talk about some of that. But I know some of the platoon guys that were coming in when we were in Mom's garage. A few of them dudes had been out at wherever they're shooting that fucking thing at, and it was causing injuries, like multiple accumulative injuries from that thing.
Maybe very well. So again, they have a hit probability problem in the Marine Corps. They can't pull this fucking thing out and hit the target that they were required to hit. So what does the Marine Corps do? They reduce the standard. They make the targets closer. And so now they can go to the commandant and go, look, we've got a 65 hit probability rating because we're so badass. But they reduced the standard. They made the targets closer. It's bullshit. So what you've done is you put those guys in danger because you've reduced the range that they have to engage targets, which means they're going to be closer to their threats to shoot that fucking rocket, instead of just manning up and going, look, your fucking proposal to get rid of rocket guys doesn't work. We need professionals in these positions. There's no reason why we don't have dudes that carry rockets around all the time.
Do you remember when they were going to stop giving ammo for the Barrett 50 cals because they had that fucking air compressed trainer thing?
I don't remember that. You
don't remember hearing that?
No, I don't remember that.
Maybe it wasn't Sniper. You guys were the only ones that had Barretts, though, right?
Some EOD guys had them. They snuck out to certain places, like the HRT team had them, and but for the most part, when the M82 came out, we were the only ones that had. But I never heard. Now they did have. I can't remember if I can't remember what it's called. little fake range system that we would go in and shoot the M16s that shot air. I think they had a Barrett 50 cal in there too, but it never became a thing because, the thing about the Barrett 50 cal, the M82, I don't know what the kids are doing with the 107s, but the thing about the Barrett 50 cal, it was kind of it was a thing we had, and you would go out and fan fire it every now and then, and me and Hayes used it in Mogadishu. Both the sniper positions in Mogadishu had Barrett 50 cals on them. They did get used in actual combat, but from a platoon training perspective, it was kind of one of those things that you were like, all right, let's fan fire this shit. Because usually when you would go to the range, they'd get you the wrong ammo anyways. So like you would go to the range and the Cleophas Rufus ammunition was the ammo that we were supposed to be shooting through it. But you'd go to the range and there'd be a belt of 50 cal ammo, right? And so you'd have to delink it, chuck all the tracers, and just shoot the fucking...
Because the tracers would fuck the gun up?
The phosphorus that was in there is not good for the barrels.
And then the Rufus rounds were the green gold, right?
Green tip. Yeah, green and gold. I think they were green and gold. I can't remember. It's been so long.
They're not called an explosive round, but they're called, I don't remember what.
It's a
destructive round or something.
It's a marking. The big thing about the difference is, so like if you're out there looking at ammunition, a M2 50 cal armor piercing round has a bunch of tungsten steel in it, which is a better round than the Cleophas round, except the Ralphus ammunition has more Patton and RDX in it. So when you shoot it downrange, it gives you a better mark. It still has a small tungsten steel penetrator in it, but it's not as big as the regular one. So when you shoot it downrange and you hit something, it gives you a better mark to adjust off of. And that's why they did it for the 50 cal, so you could adjust off your hits. But for overall penetration, the AP round from the M2.
And then there was also API, right? Armor piercing incendiary.
Yes, but even
red, silver, I think.
But even with the API, all that 50 cal. When you think about 50 cal ammunition and the type of ammunition, there really hasn't been any innovation since World War II.
What was the?
And so the Cleophas round had, even with, when you think about armor piercing incendiary ammunition, the Cleophas round still had more.
Is it really called the Cleophas round?
No, it's Rufus.
Okay.
I just call it Cleophas Rufus.
Who's Cleophas Rufus?
Because it sounds like if your name was Rufus, your last name would be Cleophas.
Got it. Okay. So, what about? Did you ever run into any 50 cal Sabo rounds?
Last time we were over, they had them for the M2.
That's quite a problem shooting through the Barrett.
You can't shoot them through the Barrett.
Tell them why. Somebody shot it through a Barrett.
I think in the first Gulf War, maybe.
We know somebody. We know somebody that shot it.
But you can't. You're highly likely to injure yourself or your. I don't know how the M107 is, but the problem is when the problem is the way the Barrett's muzzle brake is it directs the blast back towards the shooter. It's kind of a cone, right? It doesn't really go directly back to you. It goes kind of around you.
If you've never seen one of these fired, when it's on the ground, if there's gravel, when you fire it a couple times, there's no more gravel there.
Yeah, you're supposed to
shock waves around it.
They used to teach in class that you wet the ground, you put a poncho down, and you shoot off the poncho so that it doesn't kick up all the dust and give away your position. There's better ways to do it. I could give you a good class on it, but not now. But yeah, so what happens is that flechette round. So basically, it's a 30 caliber. It's a 30 caliber tungsten steel penetrator that is encased in plastic that sits in the 50 cal. So you get a really hot 30 caliber round. So that I don't know what it's screaming out. I'm sure the internet will be able to tell you, but it's smoking out of that 50 caliber gun. And it's a tungsten steel penetrator, so it tears shit up. With the M2, you don't have a muzzle device on it. I mean, you can have that cone muzzle brake on there that nobody puts on there.
Which they call the flash hider.
Yeah, flash hider, but you don't have any muzzle device on there, so you can shoot those rounds through the M2. With the Barrett, you have the
it's like 3 chambers.
Flash hider on there, muzzle brake device
like to arrow.
Yep. And so what happens is when the round leaves the barrel, the wind immediately pushes those plastic pieces off that round. And with the Barrett 50 cal, there's a good chance that you are now going to have plastic pieces that are flying rearward out your muzzle brake,
molten plastic,
that are moving at a very significant speed, so you can have injury from that. And so shooting sabos out of the Barrett 50 cal became a super no-no. I don't think it was ever. I don't want to say I don't think it was ever a true problem. I'm sure that in Desert Storm, somebody probably thought, hey, this would be a really good idea, and that's why we had the warning. But even those the Sabo ammunition, that was like finding a genie, dude. You know, it was like finding gold bars or something. Like even the M2 guys, the guys that are shooting, I had never seen anybody shooting the Sabo ammunition until it was like the last time I went over to Rack, and they're like, we just got this shit, and they had it in their tray, and I'm like, oh man, that's cool as shit. I actually took some of them apart and I have them on my shelf at the house. It's just the plastic penetrator and the penetrator.
Do you know where I saw all that stuff?
Where?
Cashman Field in Las Vegas at the gun show.
Oh yeah, but
the ATF took it all away. Well, the ATF didn't. California Department of Justice took all that shit. I don't have any of it.
Yeah, the problem with that stuff is they never really released it. So the stuff that we saw at the gun shows was all post-manufactured. So meaning you could get the Sabos and you could get the casings. So what guys were doing is they were making that ammunition and then selling it. The problem is it's a secret recipe. Like, it's a secret recipe. It's not, you don't go in fucking Gun Digest and be like, oh, I need 35 pounds of this powder. It's a secret recipe. And so that's what happened with that 50 cal that blew up on the internet.
Oh,
there was too much pressure because whoever put those rounds together didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And they probably put the regular powder load for that weight. And you can't do that.
Does anybody still use ghillie suits?
I don't know if they do or not.
In a sniper school right now, do they even have a ghillie suit anymore?
I couldn't speak on sniper school right now because the Marine Corps, that's right, I said it, is doing everything in their power. They've been doing it for a while. It's probably been 10 years, actually. The Marine Corps has been doing everything in their power for the last 10 years to destroy the sniper school and the sniper community. Whether that's through a terrible campaign of lies or just a lack of understanding of what they actually want. So they've been doing everything they can to destroy sniper school. So I don't know what they do now.
So
they might not do anything.
People love when I ask this question. Some seem not to like this question. If there was a conflict on U.S. territory, would the ghillie suit have an application?
Of course it does.
What would that application be?
Camouflage.
Would anybody even use a ghillie suit anymore, like a two-piece top, or don't they just kind of use a smock now?
There's other things, but there may be a situation where you would want full coverage.
Tactical Concealment was a company based out of Arizona. A guy named Mike Stanchik owned it. He spent a lot of time at my shop. We spent a lot of time on the phone. He wanted us to build ghillie suits. I'm like, I don't build ghillie suits anymore. We did some kits that Scout Snipers going through school bought. The SEALs bought some of our platforms. We did a fucking badass ghillie suit platform.
Yeah, but no self-respecting sniper goes to sniper school with a pre-made ghillie suit.
Well, all the SEALs did.
They're not real snipers.
And now the Navy actually has that. It comes in a 5-gallon bucket with all the shit.
The Marine Corps the Marine Corps did a sniper kit. I think it was Neil Morrison that got it, or it may have been Sergeant Major Booker. But there was a push in the 90s because, again, you know what? It had to have been Sergeant Major Booker that at least got the ball rolling because I remember him doing a point paper where we had to list out all the expenses of what it cost to make a ghillie suit. And so I believe that he submitted a point paper to the Marine Corps about like, hey, motherfuckers, these Marines are spending out of pocket in order to accomplish a mission that you were requiring them to do.
What was that cost?
I don't remember what it was. It was expensive.
Would you be interested in doing a produced video on how to build or a series of videos on how to build a ghillie suit? I know we've spoken about this. I say this because I have seen and read dozens of comments where people are like, hey, Scully should show how to build a ghillie suit.
There's two types of ghillie suits. There's the ghillie suit that gets you through school, and then there's a ghillie suit that you should be wearing in combat.
What's the difference?
They're different. Well, the difference is in school what we are trying to do is get the student to recognize microtrain and how to use microtrain to mask his movement. And so in school, it's a lot of skull dragging, meaning you are on the ground and you're skull dragging. And because you're skull dragging, the front of the ghillie suit gets covered in canvas, and some people will put pads in it.
Tell them what skull dragging is.
That's just
your face is literally bulldozing.
You're flat on your belly and you're bulldozing your way through the grass. You're using the micro terrain in order to keep the instructors from being able to see you. The truth is, if you use the if you are able to recognize micro terrain and you are able to use that micro terrain to your advantage, you don't need a ghillie suit. Ken Stevenson, I'm pretty sure it was Ken. He did he did one of the stocks with a road cone on his head.
Was it painted?
It was a orange road cone.
Just orange.
Because there's a certain point because it's a stalking is a singularity. I'm going to use that word. It's a singularity moment, meaning when you're doing it, you don't get it. You're like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't know how to pick a window. I don't understand. You don't get it. You're like, I don't know what the fuck these guys are doing that's getting them tens. You just don't get it. And then there is a moment where you're out there and the light turns on and you're like, holy shit. There's nothing they can do to stop me. And then it's tens, right? There's a moment. For me, I think it was like stock 4, like where you're like, I see it. I see exactly what they're talking about. It is really like the universe just opens up and explains everything to you. And so, and usually if you have the truth is, if you've got a good platoon, you've done 100 stocks before you even go to school. That's all you're doing in your pre-workup is you're just out stalking. Because that's, again, I can specifically sit here and tell you everything you need, like to the detail, everything you need to be successful on a stalk. I can give you every fucking detail, and you're going to get out there and you're going to get on your belly, and within 3 seconds, I'm going to be like, pig at your feet.
Okay, explain. Let's go back and tell them that. Like, most people have no idea what pig at your feet is, or walking on a sniper, or how that works.
Again, this is just, we're talking about ghillie suits.
And classroom.
At sniper school, again, it's about making you learn how to use that micro terrain to your advantage. Okay. And they do what's called a stalking exercise. It's usually 1,000 yards long. Somewhere in there, it could be 1,200. It's wherever we can find a good stalking lane. And when I tell you stalking lane, we're looking for a place where you can't walk upright or you're fucking caught.
It's not been mowed recent. It might have been bush hogged 4 months ago. Like, we couldn't do it out back here because you could fucking just walk through there. But up top, it's too short to do it.
So it's a place where you're definitely going to just imagine a football field with overgrown grass. And then at the other end of the lane, there's going to be 2 instructors in a vehicle with binoculars.
We were on the back of a
5-ton. Yeah.
It's whatever. While we're on the 5-ton, some dipshit commented on one of the videos. He's like, "That's bullshit. The Marine Corps never had 5 tons." So I just searched. I googled.
Hey guy, we have 7 tons now.
I googled Marine Corps 5-ton, and fucking tons of links came up to them for sale.
Yeah, people are just living in their basement eating peanut butter sandwiches. So then you have 2 instructors in
and they got peanut butter on their penises. Probably.
Some sort of elevated position. It's usually the back of a 5-ton, or it could be a 2.5-ton if this was the 60s, but it's not. Or a Humvee. When I was there, the Humvee is what we use. No, I think we use a 5-ton about equal. So you'd have binoculars set up on a tripod. You'd have a radio, and then we had walkers. There's usually 2 walkers out there. There would be sniper instructors. They would have a stick.
PVC pipe.
Usually a PVC pipe or whatever. Again, mission accomplishment, whatever we could find or use. And then they would have a radio on their back. It was a PRC 77 back in those days. And they would just be out there. Now, the walkers in no way, shape, or form are out there to help us. As a matter of fact, it's in their best interest to do everything they can to help the student. Okay? That's kind of, they can help the student without helping the student, meaning the student's really he's got to get that 10, but the walker doesn't want to do anything to give that student away. And so for the most part, they stay away from the students. And so you're at the start line, and then we'll give you 2 minutes to veg up. And so that gives you an opportunity to get all the natural veg that's in the area and put it inside your ghillie suit. Natural veg gets you over, but it also gets you killed just as quick.
Because natural veg is going to have the actual color of the shit that's out there that day.
The color that's out there that day. But if you're a real green environment and it's a long stalk and it's nice and sunny, your fucking green shit can turn brown pretty quick. And it moves different. There's a lot of reasons why the natural veg is it's a lifesaver, but it can also give you away. And so then we're gonna be like, stalk starts now, and that's when you have to pick your lane, and you have to try and get within 200 yards of the observers. The entire time we are glassing that lane, we are looking for anything that's out of the norm. To bust you. And how that works is I'll get on the radio and I'll be like, run 50 yards, and the dude will run 50 yards up, and I'm like, left turn, 10 steps, pig at your feet. Now, if he is touching the pig, right? If he is touching the pig, when I say pig at your feet, you're busted, back to the truck, goose egg, baby.
I've seen the walkers literally walk where you're like 10 steps to the left, and they'll be standing on the pig.
Yeah.
And if you're not like pig at your feet, they'll just step down.
When I'm walking, I will literally walk, because the biggest problem that observers have, so when you're the observer and you're in the truck, the biggest problem you have is depth perception. So you saw this thing going like this, right? You saw this thing, and by the time the walker gets up there, it's not moving anymore. So you're trying to walk on this thing, but you have brought the walker up here. So your depth perception is off. You don't really know how deep it is, and so you'll start walking in circles. So I will do all the time. I'll go stand in front of the pig. So I'll go 5 feet in front of the pig, and I'll stand in front of him. So the observer can't even if he did see something, he doesn't really see what he saw anymore because I'm standing in front of it. And when you're a pig, and you hear the radio, walker, and you hear the walker moving and start getting directions. Everybody has the same reaction. You start getting really small. You start getting really tight. You start getting low as you possibly can, as slow as you possibly can, because it might be you.
Now, do they have their rifles out, or are they in drag bags?
They're in drag bags. Yeah. They're dragging them. They're dragging them at this point.
And then when he says lane, like dudes will get caught up in brush and shit, and then try to get out of it, and it'll fucking shake. It'll shake that fucking plant right there.
It's a skill. It's a artful skill that every Marine Corps Scout sniper. I know some of you old farts are out there and like, they don't need to do that anymore. It's not about doing it. It's about having the appreciation of doing it and the knowledge of how to do it if they ever have to do it again. Because what you're doing is you're assuming, because in the last war we didn't do it, that we're not going to have to do it in the next war. And guess where they're doing it right now? They're doing it in motherfucking Ukraine, guys. So get your heads out of your ass and train the things that we already know that they may face again.
That's why these kids are all crying about fucking 13 mags, and they're like, combat load 6 mags.
Well, again,
because Call of Duty was based on whatever.
The people who are crying about 13 mags never carried 6 mags, so it doesn't matter.
Or 4 quarts of water.
Or whatever. And so your goal is to get within 200 yards. And when you get within 200 yards, or they're probably doing 200 meters now, because, again, the Marine Corps is fucked up. They don't know what they're doing. When you get within that range, you have to set up a final firing position, which means you have to take your rifle out, you have to set your tripod up, and you have to get ready to take a shot. Now, when you fire your first shot, the walker can be anywhere. So you fire your first shot. I don't know where you fired from, right? Or assuming I don't know where you fired from. So I'm going to boop. Okay, that's where it came from. I'm going to start glassing that area. The walker is going to start making his way up there. When he gets up there, he's going to be like within 10. And so he's going to be within 10 feet. He can be anywhere 360 around the guy, but within 10 feet, right? And so I got some time to glass. So both of us at this point, there's 2 fucking School trained scout snipers are glassing that, what is that, 100-foot square area? We're glassing that, looking for anything. We're looking for all kinds of whatever we can see. Now, I've seen guys busted for black shoelaces. I've seen dudes that have been busted for boot bands. I mean, if again, I'm using magnification, and if I can see something that is out of place, I can move the walker onto that thing, and you have them touch, you have them indicate it. So you fire your first shot, walker's within 10. Let's see if I remember. Again, this was 30 years ago. I don't know what they're doing now. He has to identify. Okay, so next it used to be I could do anything. I could flip you off, or the old days it would be like whatever you want to do. You would do some gesture, and then the student would be like, he's flipping me off, or they're mooning me, whatever. There'd be some gesture that you would do. Then it turned to cards because the Army started using cards, and the Marine Corps thinks that anything the Army does is cool, but it's dumb. So they started using cards, and it would be like 15 or whatever. There'd be a number on there, and then they would tell you what was on the card, and you'd be like, okay. And then it would be identify, and then direction. I believe next was direction. So the walker, remember, he's in 10 feet, and then he would take a stick, and he'd be like, the pig is over there. So he would just give us a direction. He would point. And then again, we would glass, and you have a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to spend a lot of time because there's 20 other pigs out there that are all getting ready to shoot at you, and you want to bust them before they get here anyways. So you give a reasonable amount of time, and then you walk the walker on things that you think you see, and then he fires again. And so now I know the direction he's at. I know this little square he's at. Now he's going to shoot another round at me. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking for blast and flash. I'm looking to see if I can see where that shot's coming from. If I see something, I still have to walk on it, and I still have to touch it, right? So let's say my shooter, my gun barrel's here, and he fires, and somehow this bush moves, okay? And it's 3 feet in front of him. I can walk on that and be like, I saw this move. And then the walker's going to be like, nobody's here. No pig. Right? So it's a step. It's a thing. And sometimes depth perception will get you, and that will be a point in the favor of the pig. The goal here, I know people twist things, and people don't understand how to instruct scout snipers because the Marine Corps ruined that world. The goal here is not to fail the pig. The goal here is to train the pig on how to do this properly. So it's not like I'm mad. It's not like I get mad every time he makes a step. I'm happy that he is seeing the universe as it should be, and he is applying all the things that we've taught him, and that he is going to succeed in this. So then after they fire their second round, then the guy it'll be touch. And so the walker will take his hand, and he will put his hand on the dude's head. And then again, we glass to see if we can see anything. Usually if you make it to touch, you're going to make it. It's kind of very rare that somebody gets busted at the touch level. It's not impossible because sometimes we're looking at something, like sometimes you will see a shadow or something in the background, and you will be glassing. You'll be like, yeah, that's where that motherfucker's at. I got you. And then he'll do touch, and you'll be like, whoa, wait a minute. I wasn't even, what? He's over. Oh my God. Why has he got red shoelaces on, the motherfucker? Sometimes you see something that you think is him, but you're not 100% sure, so you're looking for some sort of other indication. And so they'll do touch, and then you'd be like, good to go, don't see him. And then the walker has to verify range. He has to verify range on his scope. Because what dudes will do is we're usually going from the range to a stalk lane. And so you were at the 1,000-yard line when you left. You were at the 1,000-yard line when you left to go to the stalk lane, and then you set up your fucking sniper position, and you got all ready, and you took your 2 shots, and your fucking scope still has 1,000 yards on it. So you missed the target. So that guy, unfortunately, does not get a 10. Dope and support is the last part. It's dope and support is the last part. So he checks your support to make sure your support's not janky because, again, in order to finding a window through finding a window through vegetation is not as easy as it sounds. Not a legit window that you could shoot through and also not be seen. And so sometimes you get yourself into some sort of janky position where it kind of looks like your rifle's on a tripod, but you're not. And, guys, again, it's all about success, right? You want to succeed. And so guys will be, guys will literally, they'll do the thing where they got their rifle on the tripod and they're like, okay, let me lift my rifle. And they'll lift the rifle up and they'll have that window and they'll be like, okay, now I can shoot. And then they'll be like, let me lower the rifle. Because you're trying to get over. But the point, as an adult, the point is not to get over, even though that's how they used to say a lot of stuff. The point is to master the skill and be familiar with the skill so that when you have to use it in combat, you don't get killed because you were taught something that you shouldn't be doing. That you can survive and you can execute those missions as may be called upon you in, times of war. And so I never, if I had an instructor that'd be like 10 paces right, 10 paces left, we used to call it fishing. We would be like, dude, you're fishing. You're totally fishing. You just want to get somebody, you're fishing. And so usually if I was in the truck, my instructors would only give like, I'd only give them like three times. Like if they called the walker and were like left, right, blah, 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 I'd be like, that's it, dude. Let him go. You didn't have him. Go find somebody else. And then he would look at that place for an hour, be like, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker. But sometimes you gotta let him go. And even, I would see stuff. I don't want to say I was a killer, but I was a pig killer. I would see stuff that I would be like, I would even evaluate in my head. I would be like, okay, would that really have got him? Would it really have got him? Or have I just been doing this way too fucking long? And so you kind of have to weigh the good with the bad and make sure that the guys are getting the necessary training. Because if I bust you at the start point, if you're fucking flopping around like a dead seal at the start point, I bust you at the start point, you missed the whole exercise because you're running to the truck. Sometimes we would be like, continue, just so they could get the work in. But again, that's a fucking goose egg. You blast somebody at the start point, they now have a goose egg. And it's hard to come back from those goose eggs.
As a spotter up on the truck, that probably helps you be a better stalker also.
I think it makes you a better spotter. Stalking is such a, and it's the reason why the Marine Corps has tried to kill it. They try and kill it every chance they get, is because stalking is such a unique type of experience. It's once that Overton window, the singularity happens, it just happens. Like I would, the tunnel stalk would be a prime example. Whenever we would go do the tunnel stalk, I would be like, okay, pigs, I would go down at the start point. And I'd be like, I'm in my camis. I'm just in my camis with my hat on. I'm going to do this and I'm not going to lay on the ground. And I would run the stalk lane against my instructors and I would not, and they wouldn't know, they wouldn't even know I was going, right? So again, like I wouldn't tell them, hey, I'm going to run the stalk lane. I'm going to run it with you guys. They don't know. So there's no chance for them not to walk on me because they're going to they want to bust pigs. And so I would run the tunnel stalk all the time with no fucking hands and knees. You have to get on your hands and knees, but no ghillie suit, no nothing.
The tunnel under the road.
It was a 25. It was a road that goes out to 25 area combat town, and there was a tunnel there, and so it was called the tunnel stalk. Any identifying mark, that you could come up with, that's what like you did the Pogus Lake stalk, you did the fucking Pogus Gate stalk, whatever it was around, that's what it got called.
So if you had a group of, let's say 12 guys, how many guys effectively could you have in class if you were going to put something on where they came in here for a weekend, you built a rough ghillie suit and you taught them how to stalk? What could you do is it viable to do it in 48 hours or 2 days of classroom?
Probably not.
How many days would you really need?
Probably not. I mean, I feel like you need I feel like I mean, I don't know.
We're not teaching them to shoot.
No, I know.
Teaching
Not
them
shoot.
to veg up and
If you're just talking about the use of microtrain and being able to move against being able to move against a known, and this is the key, right, guys? This is the thing that most people in the Marine Corps, when they're talking about getting rid of stalking, being able to move against a known adversary that is strategically looking for you. That's key, man. That's if you can do that on the battlefield, you can do anything. You can do anything if you can successfully move into that position. Because again, in the real world, I'm not getting within 200 yards of you. I have no reason to do that. I have a capability. In the old days, I had a capability of a weapon system that could shoot out to 1,000 yards. So I don't have to get that close to you, which means if I use all these principles and I stop at, 800 yards, I'm outside of your effective small arms range. So even if I shoot Colonel Sanders, and the Colonel Sanders army comes out and starts shooting back at me, I'm not in their effective engagement range. So now I use the same principles to move out while they're methodically moving through that kill area in order to locate the sniper that just shot them. By the time they move through that 800 yards, I'm already halfway to the LZ. I'm already getting on a helicopter drinking beers with my buddies because I've used all these skills to my advantage, and you only get that if you go out and do it. So if you're talking about understanding, because it would be hard to do here because, again, stalking in here and stalking in California are two different animals, right? The guys in California, the guys that are, sorry, Quantico, sorry. I don't know about, anyways, the guys that learn stalking in California, way better than the dudes on the East Coast, because there are stock lanes the stock lanes on the East Coast. There's plenty of opportunity for you to be walking. Now they do a lot of power line. So if you think about the power lines around here, a lot of the stock lanes are on the power lines, but the fucking growth potential is just way better.
Here's what I was thinking. We have access to this range across the street.
Okay.
We could go out there, bush hog that down, let it grow for 30 days, and use that range, the old range.
Well, any power line, any high potential, or the high power lines, any of those power lines would be perfect because it gives you an actual definition of boundaries. So your side boundaries, you can't go into the woods, and then they're usually pretty clean.
Yeah, they spray them.
They're usually pretty clean. So you could do it. It's just my thing is I don't know if you had 48 hours, like it's going to take 24 hours to build a ghillie suit, maybe 12 hours.
Now when we say 24 hours, are we talking true 24 hours or 8-hour day of classroom?
Oh, I mean, it didn't take no classroom. I could teach you how to make a ghillie suit in 20 minutes.
But could they build it in
That's what I'm saying. It depending on what's provided, what they have, it could. I mean, because if I'm telling you you're going to make a skull drag ghillie suit, am I using sewing machine to put on that extra canvas?
Well, I would assume that most of them can't use a sewing machine.
Or am I using hook and needle? Yeah. Right. That's why I can use a sewing machine. Well, I can't use. John uses a sewing machine. I can dabble in a sewing machine.
Don't listen to that bullshit. He sat and sewed right next to me.
I can dabble.
He actually worked for me running a sewing machine.
Don't listen to him whatsoever. That's a fucking total lie. I can dabble in a sewing machine, and the only reason why I can dabble is because that's what I did with my ghillie suit. Is I sewed my shit on. So it's a depending on how you do it, it's a labor.
I'm trying to put a class together here.
I know you are. It would probably in that scenario, like I would think it would be better to, like if you're saying, hey, we're going to do, a 2-day stock class. It would probably be better if the entry to said stock class would be a online tutorial. Here you go. This is how you make a ghillie suit. When you show up,
have your ghillie suit,
and then you could just get to the fundamentals of stalking, where the idea of the idea in sniper school, because the thing about sniper school is I need, because of the type of missions and the requirements the Marine Corps used to do. Okay, the type of missions and the requirements the Marine Corps used to do. I need an individual who can be sleep deprived, who can be food deprived, who can be hot, who can be fucking tired, and is still going to accomplish the mission. Now, you might think that's easy. It's not easy. Okay, it is not easy. There's very few people in the military that can actually do that. I want you to just think about this. If it was easy, everybody in the Army would be Special Forces. If it was easy, everybody in the Navy would be fucking Navy SEALs. If it was easy, everybody would be fucking Rangers. It's not easy. That's why they have specialized battalions that have specialized requirements. It's not easy to find people that do that. Most people, I would say the majority of people, have a lot of give up. They have a lot of quit in them. It's so easy to quit. It is so easy to quit. It's so easy to give up. It's so much easier, especially with the lifestyles we lead now. It's so much easier to go back to the barracks and play Xbox than fucking spend your entire day sweating your ass off trying to accomplish something that you don't know why you're trying to accomplish it. It's a lot easier, and that's why the special ops community has a hard time airing that shit out. It's why, you know, you have to go through all these different selection packages to get anywhere that's fucking worthwhile getting there. And the minute the big army or big Navy or big Marine Corps gets involved, and it's like, you know, it'd be cool is if we had more of these elite soldiers. The first fucking thing they do is reduce the standards. Sorry, you can say that the standard you went through is not is hard as it ever was. It's not true. The first thing they do is reduce the standards. The first thing they do is make it easier. The Det 1 guys that created the scenario for MARSOC went through way harder shit than any MARSOC guys are going through because they had the proof of concept. So they had the proof of concept, and as soon as the Marine Corps was like, hey, you know what'd be cool? If we had a bunch of fucking
females making it through.
A bunch of fucking MARSOC guys, they lowered the standard. Now, I'm not trying to bash MARSOC. Those guys do great shit. But if they want to be realistic, they lowered the standard in order if you're in MARSOC, you're standing next to a guy who who you're like, yeah, he's not the ninja of ninjas. It's just they lower the standard as soon as they make it better, as soon as they make it bigger. And I don't want to just bag on MARSOC because
that's what Goggins said. The
Army did the same goddamn thing to Special Forces. They opened Special Forces up to be so big that, I'm sorry, Green Beret, you're not as badass as you were just 20 years ago, because you have a high turnaround rate. You're not learning the same skill set that you used to learn. You think you guys are just CQB dudes, and that's not what Special Forces is for. It's just not. It's not the thing that you've been doing in Afghanistan and Iraq for the last 20 years is not what Green Berets are for. Green Berets in nature are subversive units, meaning you should be going into Liberia. Now, I know some of you guys are doing it, but when you're talking regimental level Special Forces, you're not doing it. You should be in Liberia training the fucking Liberian Congolese Revolutionary Army to fight so we don't have to. But again, I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry. If you're a Green Beret, I know you went through the Q course. I know you did all that hard stuff. But again, the bigger you get, the more watered down you are. That's across the board, no matter what.
All right, we forgot to do episode 29, Pulling Thread Podcast with John and Scully.
Did we forget to do that?
I forgot to do it.
Oh, okay.
So could you do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday where they do a ghillie suit build and then stock Saturday, Sunday?
You could.
You
could, but I think what you're going to have is you're going to have guys that are going to build a ghillie suit that's not going to be really that good, and then you're going to have guys that are going to go in these stock lanes, and they're not going to have that aha moment. They're going to get an experience. Yes, they're going to get an experience, but they're not going to have that moment where they're like, oh shit, I see exactly what they're talking about. Fuck you. I can stock against you any day of the week.
Could we do an exposure to?
Yeah, you could do an exposure.
In 3 days.
If people wanted it. Yeah.
How many students could we handle?
When you say we.
Me and you and whoever else you get.
If you want to do it legit, you need 4 people.
Okay.
You need 2 walkers, 2 observers.
So John.
I mean, yeah.
And I could get Jared to come out.
You could get Jared to come out?
I can get Jared.
Oh, it'd be great to have Jared out.
I promise you, Jared's listening to this right now.
No, he's not. Jared don't listen. Jared's too busy. He's a stay tactical guy. He's too busy.
He's a knife maker.
I mean, he's doing that too.
He can come out and sell knives.
So when does he have time to do that?
I'll get him here.
It'd be great to have Jared out.
Okay, so how many students?
Jared? How long has it been since you fucking walked on a pig?
He's going to demo the stock.
It's going to be years. It's been years. I mean, yeah. So I mean, to make it be the experience, you need at least 4 guys.
Are we going to sleep? You guys didn't do a hell week. You did like a 2-day.
No, we did. We did a hell week.
But we're not going to sleep deprive them and make them write letters and stuff.
No, I mean, not unless you guys want that. I mean,
somebody wants it.
Do you want it? Do you want to know?
That's next. So that's a sample of the next episode. We will talk about sleep deprivation in the letters, and because there's some good stories that go with that.
Yeah. Do you want some sleep deprivation? We can do that.
How many students?
I mean,
100.
I'm overzealous.
100 students? I'm kidding. How many really?
That's a big stock.
Yeah.
Line.
How many really?
That would be, like you couldn't stock. In order for it to be fair, like you could go as many as 20, but 10 would probably be fair. You know, because the problem again, another stock problem is I may know how to stock. Like I may have had the aha moment, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna slither over here. I'm gonna slither over here. I'm doing my thing, right? I know how to do it. John may have not had the aha moment. He's like, fuck, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, look at that pig trail. There's somebody that knows what they're doing. I'm going to follow him. So John literally could be 10 feet behind me, wiggling some grass and shit, doing all kinds of crazy shit. And the observers see it, but because of depth perception, because of a depth perception problem, because again, what's going to happen? The walker's going to start coming. And all pigs know that if you hear the radio, walker, you immediately, you're like,
how long do they have to
deer in a headlight?
1,000 yards. How long do they have?
I can't remember how long it was. 4 hours, I think.
Okay, so it's not viable to just run them one at a time through the lane.
No, it's not viable. I think it was. God, it's been so long. But so you immediately pause. So John stops, I stop, and then, remember, there's a depth perception problem. So now, because we're sprawled out laying down, he's got, roughly 6 feet. There is 6 feet in this lane where if they walk the walker right, they can step on one of us. And so if they have the depth perception problem, I get busted because of something somebody was doing following me. That happens all the time. Just a quick one. This is a masterful sniper. Ken Stevenson. So he 10'd out pretty early. So there was a point where he's fucking like he literally could stand up at the begin, get a 0, go to the truck and drink water. But they take stuff away from you. Like they're like, okay, no ghillie suit. And then like the last one he did, he had a road cone on his head. Not a big road cone, a fucking little road cone. He had a road cone on his head. And, but what he would do is he would stalk out in his lane and get out ahead of all the pigs. And he would immediately pull his trousers down and take a shit in the middle of the stock lane, pull his pants up and shit and keep going. So that anybody that was following they'd be like, oh, look at what Ken left for me. A nice turd. Right? So you got to stalk around the turd, which means you have to find your own lane, which means you have to learn, and you should be learning, you shouldn't be following.
Anybody ever get snake bit?
No.
Scorpion, spider bite?
I'm sure poison oak. Never. I don't think. I mean, we may have had a spider bite here or there because you will, if you're doing it right. If you are doing it right and you're crawling at the necessary rate, you'll have you'll push through the grass and there'll be a rabbit there looking right at you, going, "What are you doing here?" Snakes come and every now there were stock lanes where dudes would jump up and run and they would be like, snake. And then you would be like, walker, get over there, find that snake. because again, students are always trying to get over. And so if you have stalked yourself into a position that you can't get out of, screaming snake and running is a good way to get you a new position.
How much water they carry with them?
One canteen. That's it. One canteen. We never had anybody frap out or anything like that because your mind is focused on the success.
Is there an advantage to being the first guy versus? I mean, I know the grass is beat down and shit some, but is there an advantage like time of day, sun in the sky?
There can be, but the stalks are set up in a way that you're never. The stalk lanes are directional. They change directions, and so it's never. You're not going to see like if you, let's say you're doing we'll say the Pogus Lake stalk. If you're doing the Pogus Lake stalk, you're not going to be like, okay, it's this time of day, the sun is moving this way. I know what I need to do tomorrow because the next day you're going to Pogus Gate stalk or you're going to Big Titty stalk. You're going to a different stock. It's going to be a different angle. Sun's going to be in a different spot, different time of day. So it's really about that micro terrain. How you find that micro terrain.
So how many avenues do we need to be able to do this class?
What do you mean as far as lanes? Oh, I mean,
do it with one.
I could walk around here right now and find 10 stock lanes because literally, if you're using, for example, the power lines, right? I don't know where the big power lines are around here.
We got them.
But if you're using a power line lane, you literally can be like, okay, here's the beginning. You're going to stalk this way, and then drive the truck over here and be like, okay, you've just stalked through there. Now stalk back. The micro terrain that will get you over is not going to be the same going in the opposite direction. So you can't just get on the original pig trails. Now the problem is you've mashed all that area down. But again, in the power line things, you could just move down 100 yards and now you're in a whole new terrain set.
Because we could do this class and not even have it be a shooting class. You could do it without even
you don't have
rounds. So that really opens up the availability of where we could do it.
Here's the other misnomer that most people don't understand is it's only 10% of what snipers do, shooting. So when you're running around doing, days and hours and drills of PRS and all that shit, that's only 10% of it. And the truth is, if you don't master the field skills, I'm going to say this again. If you don't master the field skills, I don't give a shit how good you can shoot. If you can shoot the fucking top off a spray paint can at 1,000 yards, I'm going to kill you because you have not mastered the field skills, so you can't get out there in the first place, and you can't keep me from hunting you down because you haven't mastered the field skills. That is the most important thing, is mastering the field skills, not shooting. Shooting's only 10% of it.
There's your soundbite, Austin.
Oh, Jesus.